All right, welcome to the Sae Bae cast, number 170 with Bcguppy for his fourth appearance. Bcguppy, how are we doing today?
Well. Didn't expect to see me today, did you, fellas? Yeah,
I
we're
have
doing great.
I
We are going to have a great time today. I can tell already.
I have told nobody about your surprise appearance. Literally nobody knows about this. So it's just gonna drop. And for those that have listened to his past to your past episodes 9, 10, and we were literally just talking right before this. You can't even remember the episode 36, but you were on episode 36 as well, and you were on a ramble as well. So that was like duo ramble we did talking about elite clues. You know that ramble like actually made the difference from them actually changing elite clues like that. We needed that
Oh
ramble
yeah,
to be,
100%.
yeah, that was important for the trajectory of clues in this game. So
A lot of the stuff that I talked about on the previous casts just ended up just kind of leaking into the game over time. My friend Nick, all caps, shout out to him. He listened to my Say Bay casts like kind of recently, I think this year, and he was saying how he was listening to it and he was like getting kind of stunned at how so many of the things that I mentioned, that oh, you could do this to the game, oh, you could add this, oh, this would be cool content, it's just in the game now.
yeah, it's weird listening back because I haven't listened back to those things fully, but I've like occasionally taken little glances where I'll listen to it for a couple minutes, just kind of see what's going on. Because I'll even get commenters as well. Because like my YouTube studio will just have random comments from past episodes and like, oh my god, like you talked about this, like what the hell? And it's really fascinating, kind of going back on.
I shit you not. I came up with an entire concept for a boss called the Leviathan, and they just straight up added it. Like they copy pasted that right into the game with Desert Treasure 2. Oh my God, dude. You may as well just call me Mod Guppy at this point with the amount of influence I've had on the game despite being like not even a content creator. It's crazy. Also, I want to just quickly talk about how those two first casts that I did with you,
Yeah.
how they just absolutely ballooned in views. And it wasn't even like, okay, it was somewhat recently that they got so many views. Those casts were sitting at like maybe like 10K views. I don't remember at the time, but it took like 2 or 3 years later before they just absolutely went to the moon in terms of viewership and like watching retention or whatever that stat on YouTube is called.
Uh huh.
I feel like a lot of it. We talked about this before, but I don't think we talked about it on a cast.
Mm-mm.
I fondly remember you said that you would pay for a steak dinner if I came over to Oregon and visited you. So I'm gonna still hold you to that.
Yeah,
But
you're feel, dude. Any fucking time you want to come over, I'll take you out anywhere, any restaurant you want here. I will take you out. So just
oh
feel free.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see here. So sailing was pulled a bunch of times. It finally passed. And I think since then, the hype for sailing has died down so much. We've heard no updates on sailing for, it feels like, several years now. And people are just so concerned that Jagex doesn't know what to do with sailing, or they don't know how to like add the skill to be meaningful to the game. It's a
So
little concerning, and it makes me like, even though I spent such a long time on your cast hyping up sailing, I
yeah,
think the hype has died down now, and even I am a little bit afraid of sailing. It's like this demon on the horizon that people are scared of.
they're okay. So let me just say real quick, they are big time working on sailing, and I know that because I'm in a private group where, and I can't leak anything from this at all because
Streamer privilege.
I'm under an NDA, but there is work being done, and it does look very very exciting, and they're working super hard on it. So there's a bunch of devs working on it. There's a bunch of collaboration with other creators and other people that are like really just looking out for the game and its best interests. And there's so many different voices that are heard, and they have calls and stuff where there's just a lot of collaboration. So there is amazing things happening, and I will totally grant you though that the idea, like, because I always have these amazing sort of ideas that come into my head, like, oh my god, imagine if RuneScape had this, imagine if RuneScape had this, and it's just like you always think of the most beautiful fantasy of it, where it's like, oh my god, if
Yeah,
everything just
exactly.
worked out perfectly, it would be amazing, and then you actually realize that this game isn't just focused on like how you want it, but it's like it has to affect every single player, and it's just becomes so convoluted, and there's like the bureaucracy behind it, like there has to be voting and there has to be people having their say, and it's just a huge mess at the end of the day. But I actually have I'm feeling very like optimistic about this whole endeavor, and I think Sailing's actually gonna like hit a sweet spot, I personally believe. And I
Hearing you
and
talk about it,
one last thing, sorry, is it's actually, in my opinion, a good thing that the hype has died down a little bit, because it makes it so we're not just absolutely wetting our pants over like, oh my god, can you imagine like how great this is going to be, and then we get like a lesser version of that. I think it's almost good that the expectations are very low. So
I find the OSRS team lately has been doing a really good job of updates. Varlamore, Slap, the Coliseum owned, even Perilous Moons is pretty cool. And they added a huge part of the world that is actually full of detail. I was surprised at how thorough they were with this. And we're going to get more updates to Varlamore 2, Part 2, Part 3. I recently did Desert Treasure 2 for the first time. That was really fun to do. That was an awesome quest. I have a lot of faith in the direction that the game is going in right now. And hearing you talk about sailing, they're working really hard on it. It's giving me more faith that they will do the right thing and they will release the good content.
yeah, I have a lot of faith, and they've come out with some great updates. Have you touched the Coliseum?
I sure have. I got that quiver super easy. I watched streamers plank over and over and over. I pretty much downloaded the Coliseum watching streams. And I think the moment that someone released the B5 tile, or the Kelvino tile, as some
Uh-huh.
prefer to call it, as soon as that strategy was revealed, I went straight into the Coliseum. And dude, all right, guess how many deaths it took for me?
Ooh, I mean, you're sounding like you're kind of like a beast, so I'm gonna say like, I don't know, 10 deaths.
I got the quiver with four.
Holy shit, dude!
I
Just
fully downloaded the Coliseum watching all these people struggling, and I'm just like, okay, I know what to do now. And then after a few tries getting like the hang of it, I got it on my fifth try on my third soul. It would have been my second soul, but I died on like 50 HP enrage phase of soul. I was brewed down big time. I couldn't finish it off, and it was lasering the whole arena. The whole floor was getting covered with the bad shit.
I'm just
But yeah, I own the Coliseum. It was so fun. I really enjoyed it.
it feels so refreshing. I mean, I definitely died a lot, but I didn't. I was kind of like you, where I kind of downloaded a little bit just in my mind watching streamers. I didn't do enough research, I feel like. I was just watching it, and then I kind of just heard from some people saying, "Here's the good invocations or the good modifiers," and but the boss, I mean, as soon as I got to the boss, it was just like instant plank, like the first four times, and I finally got to the fifth. But like, I feel like no matter what, that first fight, even if you've done the simulators, even if you've watched the guides, I feel like no matter what, you're gonna die your first soul fight. Like, it's overwhelming.
It's awesome that it's designed that way too. It makes you feel like the boss is quite formidable. It's pretty simple in all honesty in
Yeah,
its
it it
mechanics,
it is
but
like once you get your first completion, it's like, oh, that wasn't actually bad at all. Like that was kind of easier than I thought. But
the soul fight
initially,
is
it's
so sick, dude.
so overwhelming.
Maybe the end could have had like one more thing, but yeah, I've already heard lots about the Coliseum on the past few casts. I've been listening to some of your most recent casts lately, and yeah, someone mentioned like they're happy that Soul didn't end up being an awakened Leviathan after 30 minutes of waves.
Yeah, that would
I
be.
was very thankful for that.
I know. The thing is I feel like Jagex is actually hitting some really nice sweet spots, because Coliseum is not overly difficult. It really isn't. It's just,
Yeah, for sure.
and we have to remember as well. We've played this game a lot. You were one of the first Iron Men to get an Infernal Cape, if I remember correctly, And
Yeah.
like, so you are up on that top like echelon of just player knowledge, understanding the tick system, understanding mechanics and stuff. But I feel like when I look at more of a kind of average or like above average player that's jumping into this content, it feels so fair. It feels fun. Like, it just feels fun. It doesn't feel like there's too many just stupid mechanics that are just overly difficult for the sake of it. And the boss fight is so much fun. It's just fun. Like, it's not even that hard. It's just fun. I'm so
Feels
like
so
impressed
good
with it.
hitting
Yeah.
Soul with the scythe. It feels
It
so good.
feels so good. You're right, dude. And my favorite mechanic is literally the triple like stab thing. We have to turn off your prayers, and then like right below 50%, it does the 4 tick instead of a 3 tick final blow. I love that because it feels like Dark Souls, and it just, I don't know. There's something so special about that fight. It's amazing. They nailed it.
It really is the Dark Souls boss of OSRS.
It's so
It just
good.
it just feels very Souls-like to me. How you have to like read the boss's animations to see what it's about to do to you. They need more of that in the game for sure.
Yeah, I'm very impressed. I really hope that they, because we talked about it, you probably heard it on the cast. I think it was with Mulgo Natty, like a surface, like overworld boss that's just in, something almost like not in the wilderness, but something like a classic wilderness boss that's just on the surface of the game. You can just run in and start killing it. And it could be multi, so you could just have unlimited people killing it. And it's literally just a soul fight that just has a shit ton of HP. And so you can go in
Yeah,
there, just
yeah, I
keep
like
on
that
attacking it.
concept
Like
a lot.
that sounds so much fun. Just
You,
watching people
okay,
play. Yeah.
okay, listen, you have to understand that I haven't been playing the game for like 2 years. I took a 2 year break. I started touching grass, expanding my horizons in life, just basically hanging out with all kinds of people, being a social butterfly, right? Uh, I've been absent from the game for 2 years, but it's not like I quit because I disliked the game. I just kind of didn't really have much motivation to play. I didn't really have any goals in mind with the game, so I just played other games for a while.
Hmm.
I did de-iron my old Iron Man that is now in the bin, but that's just because I was not looking forward to killing 2000 necks and then continuing my nightmare grind to
More than
get an Ink
2000
Mace.
next. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, unless you're doing duo next the whole time or some crazy shit. Yeah. No,
Anyway,
yeah.
where I'm going with this, and I'm going to interrupt you here because I want to
Yeah,
make this
go.
point
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
clear.
Yeah.
But I'm coming back to the game after 2 years and kind of indulging in the content that's been coming out since then. And this is me like let's take a time frame here. I was starting to play around January, February. So right before they released Farlamore, I'm just doing all these new updates, and then I hear, oh, there's a new continent coming out in like next week's update. Holy cow! I'm gonna give this a look and see how it is. And me just being thoroughly impressed with everything that they've been releasing. Dude, I'm big time hooked on the game right now. I've been doing combat achievements on my alt. I've been doing all these things that I've never done before, awaken bosses. Dude, it's so much fun.
It actually does sound nice. Like, I haven't even had, I've had little moments, not 2 year breaks though, but it's actually kind of a luxury to take in an extended break and then come back and feel very refreshed and just feel like there's so much new
Oh,
stuff you can do.
oh, dude.
Especially without the Iron Man mindset of feeling like you're
Oh
behind.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
fuck
Feeling
that.
like you don't have a 100-hour grind because they added this one boss that now you
Yeah.
got to kill 100,000 times. Like if I was still an Iron, I would see that wilderness like pirate thing update and be like, all right, there goes 100 hours, just gone. I need that now. That's
Yeah.
my new goal for the next week.
See, I have slowly, especially this past year and a half, I have taken like that stance of just I need to stop worrying about things because when I was peak addicted to this game, it was seriously like whenever a new update came out, I felt like I needed to abuse it. I felt like I needed to take advantage of things. I felt like I have to get this done because almost like, and one of it was just I want to feel the sense of completion toward the game, but on the other side, it was like as a content creator, I'm projecting onto my audience that they expect me to have completed everything and to understand everything and to have guides on it or to have, some sort of in-depth whole ramble on every single piece of content. And nowadays I'm like, dude, I have to let that go, and I have let it go, and I'm giving myself an actual like break from just knowing everything and just trying to have a take on everything. Like that whole wilderness bot, like the pirate stuff, I haven't even touched it. I haven't touched hunter contracts. I haven't touched a lot of things. Even forestry. Like forestry is still very unfamiliar to me because I just
I don't know what the hell is going
yeah.
on with forestry at all. I just see 100 people at maple trees on Sears on a specific world, and I'm just like, wow, this must be the new winter toad, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm yeah, it's important because Iron Man really can suck you into this all or nothing kind of vibe toward the game where it's like you
Yep.
go as hard as you possibly can, and especially now with collection log and all these other things, like you just feel like you can always be doing something, and I had to let go of that, and it's been really good because I've finally been able to have, not to say my life is perfect or anything, not even close, but at least I have somewhat of a more life balance, and I live a lot healthier, and so that's been good for sure. So wait, so you
You're uh,
yeah.
you're 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 doing a good balance of like going outside and staying inside and playing the game, and you're doing a good job of that. And I'd like to see more people kind of like stay away from the whole no life grind set. It's really good for your health to just go outside, get some sunshine, go for a walk. That's something that I would recommend to everyone, by the way. Just
Yes.
go outside, dude. Go outside, walk your block, and keep turning left until you're home. That's all you got to do. 20 minutes, walk around the block. You have no idea how profitable that is to your physical and mental health. It's crazy.
It really is, especially when like because there's a lot of our audience that has a very good life balance. Like there's a lot of my audience that have their own families and everything else. But there are that portion of my audience that just like is just the game is still everything. And ultimately, and we kind of talked about this right before we started recording, but it's like everyone has their own life trajectory and everything. And and now and I even said like 5 years ago, if some guy was to say like, hey man, like stop playing video games as much, I'd be like, fuck off, like let me let me live my life. Like I like my video games right now. So ultimately I never want to like be preaching, but I will say 100% that having some sort of balance where you're getting outside and getting exercise, that's the real thing, honestly. It's just moving your body. Like that is it. It's just moving, because when you are just literally sedentary on your chair all day, and again, this is like a minority of my audience, like this is not the vast majority have healthy lives and stuff, but when you're living a life like that, like it's just depressing. Like it really is. And as soon as you kind of like break free from that, you'll realize like it's a lot nicer getting just having this nice balance. And that's what I came to discover, which is really nice. And walking was the first step I took, was like, dude, just go for walks.
Yeah, me too. That was actually my first step too. And listen, Sater, I'm gonna give you some numbers, okay?
Yeah.
So 2015, this is when I started my Ironman. I started grinding, and I was grinding big time, dude. I was a little wee iron, a little after Ironman mode came out. It was a couple months after Ironman mode came out in 2014, and I was no lifing huge. And you want to know how much I weighed at the time, or around like when I was at the peak of my no lifing fiasco, dude. Okay, so for reference, I'm 6'3". I'm a pretty tall guy. When I was no lifing RS in 2015, I weighed 130 130 pounds. I was a skeleton, like literally,
Holy.
dude. I was skinnier than Betty on at the time. It was not good. I was eating instant noodles as my only source of nourishment, and somehow like getting away with it, because my mind at the time,
Yeah.
it's just like, I need to play, I need to play, I need to play. I wasn't thinking about
Yeah.
hygiene, or getting my freaking macros or micros. None of that, dude. Not at all. I wasn't going outside. I was actually just collecting dust on my head
Yeah.
from the amount of not moving I was doing in my room. And listen, so the year is 2024.
Okay.
I've been dipping my toes into the game again, but I'm coming back from a 2 year break. So I weigh 205 now.
Wow.
and I feel great. I look great too, or at least I would say that I'm in pretty good physical shape. And dude, this is pre-gym. Like I'm not even working out yet. I'm doing like calisthenics like maybe every other day, and I'm going out for big hikes pretty often too. I'd say like twice a week. And yeah, I feel so much better than I did uh 9 years ago when I was at the peak of my Ironman no life and career. Back when I was doing freaking 4 kill an hour corp solos, dude. Holy moly.
Dude, that is literally amazing to hear. Like that is actually amazing. So like when we because you were saying 2015. So 2015 was like your absolute lowest weight, peak degeneracy, peak just
Oh yeah.
improper hygiene. I feel like a lot of guys can kind of go through that in their early 20s, just like, okay, it's just like just whatever I want to do, just ignore every other life pursuit and just focus on, my addiction or my passion. But like, at what point did the shift happen? Do you think it was just 2 years ago when the major shift happened, or was it a slow sort of progression into understanding? Because I'm also wondering as well, in 2015, did you even understand what macros were? Because I feel like a lot of people are
No.
actually just genuinely ignorant to what needs to go into their body.
No, I was completely uneducated. Dude, you think I'm going on fitness forums and learning about that stuff when I'm like killing corp, bro? No shot.
It's
Uh
interesting though, because, well, and yeah, like, I'll let you respond, but because for me, like, I understood nutrition because I took a nutrition class, like, in high school. I took two nutrition classes in high school, and that's when I really started becoming really fascinated with the topic. And I actually was pretty fit toward the end of high school and then into early college as well. But as soon as I just went full on, like, I'm going to start content creation, I'm going to start like really streaming and playing a bunch of RuneScape, I knew what I needed to be doing, but I just wasn't. So I didn't struggle with being like super skinny, but I definitely was like at the most unhealthy I'd ever been in my life. But I understood the tools of how to get back. It was just literally just pure laziness. So
for me, the life changes, it all had to do with money. So in 2015, like by the end of 2015, I had run out of money to have no job and to no life. And yeah, I got kind of, it was bad at the time, like right around the change between 2015 and 2016, I ran out of money and I needed to find work really bad. And I was a skeleton that only played RuneScape at the time with no actual life skills or anything. Yeah, that was when I was kind of thrown into the river full of crocodiles where I had to start working. I had to start like talking to people at my job and be more social in general. So yeah, I had to start working and making money. And my whole mindset at the time was like, okay, I'm gonna get a job and then I'm gonna make a bunch of money just so that I can quit my job and then keep no lifing again.
yeah,
And
the
and in
dream.
a way that kind of still happened because I worked for a while. It was like what, like 3 years, and then there was the pandemic, 2020. I stopped working and then started playing again. And then after that, I ran out of money again a second time after the pandemic. So I started working again. And then just this second transition to working again where I know like well, I have life skills at this point. I can actually talk to people socially again. At some point, I just started kind of growing up as a person. Just I'm meeting new friends, I'm going out places, I'm just having positive life experiences. And somehow I made a crazy transition from being a 130-pound Skeletor living in his mom's basement to now I moved out of my mom's basement. I'm living in this house that I share roommates with, and I weigh a proper weight now. It's been amazing
That's
how, or sorry,
no, you're good. How did the calisthenics start? Because you said like you've been pretty consistent with that.
well, uh, let's see. I started walking at some point, and then as it became a habit, I'm like, wow, I'm kind of really looking forward to my walks now. They feel really good. They're refreshing. It's a good way to clear my mind. So I started moving on to stuff like calisthenics, where I just do like push-ups and a lot of planks as it happens, a lot of squats. Those are kind of like the best ones that you can
Mm-hmm.
do. And then just feeling good about just putting in a ton of work into like how many slow push-ups can I do before I die? How long can my planks be? Stuff like that, right? Like I'm
Yep.
kind of pushing myself and feeling like I'm putting effort into something where I'm getting rewarded in the form of just feeling better, good physical health. It's my mindset now that I should be physically exhausted at some point in my day every day. I should just
Yes.
be completely cooked, uh,
Yes. Dude,
and kind of build that endurance.
it's so important. That was my first sort of goal. Like my and it's not like I succeeded in this goal all the time, but when I started walking, eventually months down the line, I was totally with you. Like I started walking and then walks felt good. Like I actually craved walking. Like I wanted to
Yeah,
go
me
for my
too.
walk. And I wanted to either build a playlist while I'm out there, listen to an audiobook, listen to a podcast, something like that. And that was like, yeah, how I kind of freed my mind up a little bit. And it was really nice. And then I came to the mindset like I want to break a sweat every day. Like I feel like that was just an amazing goal. Like just break a sweat every single day. If you miss a day, like that's a fail basically. So, and then I feel like the calisthenics just sort of came in. I feel like I had lost like cuz for me I was overweight. I was just a little bit overweight and so I shedded like 30 pounds almost. To
Wow,
where
good for you.
I was at a healthy weight, but I was definitely a lot leaner than I needed to be, and I didn't have the muscle mass to like look what I thought would be a good physique for me. So then that's when like the calisthenics just slowly started building on, and I've been doing calisthenics pretty consistently for like over a year and a half now. But and the coolest part about calisthenics is just understanding it's just a lifestyle. Like there's no short term solution to this. It's literally just implement it into your life and just it pays dividends over the years. And that's what I've already
It
noticed.
really is.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's so good and I'm still very consistent with it because the other thing is I needed to find something sustainable. I never understood that. For me and I feel like for a lot of people, like for those listening, if you're not in a habit of working out, one of the worst things you can get obsessed with is this idea of like completely changing your life around, going to the gym 5 days a week, pumping iron, and just complete like that is not going to happen. Like you can't just like that is not going to be sustainable for you if you have never stepped foot into a gym. Like you can't just watch these fitness gurus and stuff on Instagram and just be like, okay, like this is the only way to succeed is to just go full on like Arnold Schwarzenegger mode right now. Like, dude, like that is not the small and simple things that are sustainable. That and then you just compound on it. Like you just add little things here and there, and it's depressing in a way because if you want a quick change, it's just not going to happen. You have to understand that this takes time, and you just find little things that are going to be sustainable, and that's what's worked just wonders for me.
You
So,
know what's more difficult than body recomposition? It's mental recomposition. That is 10 times harder
oh yeah,
than like just trying to make your body bigger or smaller or whatever. You really have to put yourself in the mindset like, okay, I want to do this. I want to like do these like I want to go across all the stepping stones to getting towards a good lifestyle where okay, I'm going to start doing this just like little things, little steps at a time, right? Like you want to kind of slowly ease your way into a lifestyle. Dude, you can't just go to the gym January 2nd after freaking New Year's telling yourself, "Oh, I need to get in shape," and just expect to be going to the gym 5 times a week, starting from 0 times
yep.
a week. You just can't.
And
You got to ease yourself into it.
And the worst thing is like those New Year's resolutions. Once a week passes and you've completely given up, and you're just back to or you just ordered a full pizza because not only were you expecting to just hit the gym and like the first like 2 days of the gym were great. Day 3, day 4 it kind of sucks, and then you've been basically starving yourself because you don't understand how to eat. You're just so then there's like the biggest rebound of all time where you are completely depleted of all your stored up energy, and the only way to recover it that you know how is to just order like Papa John's for the next like 3 fucking days. And then you're just like, okay, well, now I've ballooned up even worse. I feel like shit and I can never do this. And then you just quit and you're like, I fucking give up. That happened to me so many times.
You think you have a good schedule where you're going to bed early and you're waking up early, and then Papa John's drops a 50% off after 10 p.m. deal. Dude, like how do you cope?
Yeah,
Those cheap ass pizzas, dude.
dude.
After 10, you got to start eating at 11 because you order at 10 and then like it gets delivered at 11, and then you've eaten and it's already like, oh, I'm gonna play a couple games before bed. Fast forward a couple hours, it's 3 a.m. and you're just hating your life. It's so easy how it can just fall apart so fast.
It fell apart every single time. Like, dude, it was just it's so funny because it just felt like and this is the other problem. I think this is a problem I've had like my whole life is I always think the grass is greener on the other side, and I have this sort of fantasy creating machine in my brain where like it's almost like I have these fantasies about, what's going to happen in the next several months or next years, but I never work on it. It's just like, oh yeah, like eventually, like future Sater is eventually going to just do this, right? Like surely, like everything's just going to fall into place. And that was my mindset for like 3 years when it came to fitness, because I remember being fit. And I was like, okay, like, I'm at like my fattest point right now. I just feel absolutely just disgusting. But surely in the next few months, I'll get my shit together. And I never actually made any plan to work on it. It was just like, okay, in the next few months, like everything's going to change, right? And yeah, that just never came around until the small, simple things started actually being implemented, which it was not all at once. Like if people see, because, like one of the best examples in the category is Automelogy. Did you saw his transformation?
Oh, dude. He had a sick transformation, although I think he still plays some garbage free to play Ultimate Iron Man. That's cringe. Don't do that. But looking at him like, holy moly, this guy,
Yeah.
dude, he's stripped. He's actually just well and truly shredded.
Yeah. No, but what we saw was him at his very skinniest, and then we saw a photo 2 years later of what he looked like, and he looked phenomenal. And, he just kind of kept that up. You can't stay. And the other thing is there's some people that imagine you can just stay shredded all year round. That's not a reality either. Like you can take a great photo when you have a pump and you're at your leanest point, and then you rehydrate and you eat some more food and stuff. But when you're looking at those two photos, like that did not happen overnight. Like that took 2 goddamn years. Like that's a lot of time and a lot of failures. Like, like you're going into the gym, you feel like shit, you're like a skeleton, and it's like you don't understand how to lift properly, the mind muscle connection's not there. Like there's so many things that need to slowly be implemented. So I feel like that's something that's forgotten with a lot of like the progress stuff that people see. Like you see a transformation, like, wow, that was amazing. That was like, I want to do that. But there's so much work that goes into it. And there's so much just like time and just,
You know what though? You say like you have to do all these things, and it's true. Like you do have to work hard to get to it. But when I see photos of Autumn Elegy now, I see it as not being too hard to obtain for me. I feel like it's a very reasonable goal to get to the point that he's at now, and I think anyone could do it. Dude, if my 130-pound skeleton Vedion looking ass can, look healthy years later after some lifestyle changes and can has the capability to go to the gym and get stripped, I think anyone can do it. It's just a matter of that mental recomposition, getting yourself into the mindset that these things are obtainable. One of the most important things that I've learned in my life is to not compartmentalize yourself into thinking that you're someone that won't change or that's rigid, that, oh, I can't do this, it's not possible. I'm not that kind of person. No, like you can really just do anything with the right mindset, I feel like. Even if you feel like you don't have life skills or the talent to do anything, you can just put in the work and you'll see the dividends start getting paid out.
yep. No, you're totally right. So much of our battle is just mental. It's like developing a new mindset toward things, and it's so hard when it's just been drilled into you that you think a certain way. Like I struggle with that to this day all the time of just putting myself in a box. And I even knowing that like I feel like a completely different person than I was like 3 years ago when it comes to just like looking at myself in the mirror. Like I look at myself now and I'm like, I'm actually like proud of what I've been able to like do with just my health and fitness. And it's just like, that's amazing. And that's a like a visible thing that I can see. And for some reason, because that was a box that was really hard for me to get out of, like to mentally just to get to that point. And I have to remember, like, just that is a pure example of like mindset change that doesn't happen overnight, but you can definitely see like if you change your mindset on certain things. Because nowadays, like I for years I never saw myself as being a workout type of guy. Like I never wanted to go for a run. I never wanted to go work out. Like I almost, because of online culture as well, I was like, oh, working out's for, you know, douchebags. You know, it's kind of like the easy, like just lazy sort of, I don't know, toxic sort of thing where like, oh yeah, working out's for, you know, like vanity's sake. And it's really not. And I
It's
eventually
such
got
a
out of
bad
that.
thing. The whole concept where the people that go to the gym are like the jocks. They're like really
Yeah,
dumb,
yeah.
dumb types.
Yes.
That might have been one of the worst bits of culture that has ever been injected in our society. The fact that it can only be the muscle heads that go to the gym. That's
Yeah.
so bad,
It's
dude.
so dumb. It's so dumb. And the other thing is like there's such a big difference between being a bodybuilder and getting on juice and stuff and just living an active lifestyle that's exercising every day. Like you don't need to
Oh
be
man,
you don't need to be a
I gotta
meathead.
talk about
Yeah.
I gotta talk about juice for a moment.
Okay.
The fact how like there's a lot of people that go to the gym even for years and years, and then they don't really see much of an improvement. They like kind of cap out, right, where they don't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Yep.
and they're kind of disappointed, even though they're putting in all this work in their diet and their fitness. And dude, like it is just that's just straight up normal. Like you need to be on roids to get to the point where all these crazy rich piano looking guys are at. Like you need it,
Yep.
and it's not healthy. It's really just not healthy. You just start taking gear for a couple months, and then all of a sudden, you you like you look like one of the blood spawns at Maiden. You're just red, all kind of puffy looking. You need to kind of have a more realistic approach and know that okay, even though you're not like even though you don't look like Popeye,
Yeah.
you're still really healthy.
Yeah.
The people who are well, dude, I don't want to start talking about terms like natty and stuff on a freaking
No, that's
RuneScape podcast,
there. No, that's totally fine. We have
but
a
that's just the
literally.
normal though.
We are talking. You got to remember my audience. The demographic is like 25 to 35, 99% male. Like that's completely fine to say. Like we're this.
I
You're in the
can't wait
perfect
for
demographic. Yeah.
I can't wait for my friends to listen to this cast, expecting all this insight on RuneScape and
Yeah. No, we'll get there.
oh,
We'll
the
get
game's
there.
getting changed on Project Rebalance, and then they just hear all this shit about fitness and mental health. Dude, it's I never thought I would be talking this way in 1,000 years.
It's
It's so funny.
but these I personally love talking about this stuff, and also we're gonna get there because talking to you, we already know we talk for hours on end. So you know, people can always if they're not interested in these segments, they can always skip forward. But I always love talking about this stuff because it does like I'm passionate about fitness and stuff, and also what you were saying about the whole gear. When you look at society in general, like if you go and walk down the street, if you do calisthenics consistently and exercise daily for a couple years, you are literally going to look better than 99% of the people that you're walking around on the street, just in a random
Oh yeah,
place in your
it's
city.
it's easy mode, dude. Just literally do 50 push-ups a day 3 times a week, and you're just gonna be so shocked at how you weigh 10 pounds more, and it's all muscle, and you don't even get any fatter.
Yeah,
It's crazy OP.
it's so
It's
OP.
it's like the diminishing returns where the first amount of work that you put into your fitness gives you insane benefits, and then it starts tapering off.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they haven't even put in any effort into it. So if they just put in that tiny bit of effort, they're going to see zero diminishing returns on that first little bit of effort they put in. And it's insane how even just like a 20-minute walk every day, it's only 20 minutes. Like that's not even 1% of your day.
Yep.
And it's already making you sleep better. Like just sleep alone. If you go for a 20-minute walk, if that makes you fall asleep 20 minutes faster where you're not tossing and turning because your body isn't tired, if you just put in a 20-minute walk, that is faster. That is more efficient than spending 20 minutes tossing and turning in your bed, and it's way more enjoyable too.
Oh
If you
yeah.
want to no life RuneScape, you would actually be incentivized to get exercise so that you can sleep better. Or if you're like really, I guess if you're really down bad on RuneScape, you can just not sleep until you're tired. And then like have the degen schedule where you have like Martian days in your brain where you have 25 hours in a day and you just go to bed 1 hour later. I guess you could do that, but don't do that, dude. Don't do that. Just go for a 20-minute walk. Go to bed at a reasonable time, and that's all it took to
Yeah.
have better sleeps and to feel better.
And
And it's so good.
that's what's important. The one of the most toxic things is being chronically on Instagram or any other sort of photo or video sharing thing where you're literally looking at people that their whole career is to be juiced up and taking the best lighting photos with the best pump they've had all fucking year. And you're just seeing these dudes that are genetic freaks as well. So, you know, on my if I click on the Instagram thing, and I'm always like deleting and reinstalling Instagram because I have like people that send me shit, so I always want to like go check again. But I'll delete it for months on end at some point because I'm like, this is just, I feel like subconsciously it's affecting me because I will feel so good about myself. Like I'll have a nice workout, I'll, you know, be eating really good, I'll feel good, and I'll look at myself in the mirror and be like, I'm very happy with how my progress is going. I'm wanting to keep this up. And then I'll go and look at these like fucking just people that are literally 250 pounds of solid muscle. And I don't even care to get that big, but it just when I look at myself right afterward, I'm like, Jesus, I'm a fucking twig. Like I'm a literal twig. Like I thought I was like getting like bigger and like, you know, but no, these guys are just fucking massive. And you can't compare yourself, but subconsciously it seeps into your brain and it makes you discontent with just like how your own progress is going just by the sheer comparison. And there's these comparisons that are literally entirely unrealistic. Like people's
Oh,
bodies are
100%.
just different. Like my frame cannot hold the muscle. Even if I were to take juice, like just obscene amount of juice where I will just die in the next 3 years. Like even if I were to do it, I could not get as big because my frame just couldn't hold the muscle. Like there's genetic outliers on these things, and you feel like, you know, it's just if I put enough work in, I can look like these guys. Like you just can't. Like you have to accept your own limitations. You have to, I don't know. It's just, it's so toxic how there are like how mentally that seeps into your brain and can keep you kind of like feeling down that you're not like, I don't know, looking as good as somebody else or as fit or anything. So you have to, I don't know, at least for me, and I know it affects a lot of men, is like you just can't compare yourself. You have to be on your own journey, and it's hard.
Oh, 100%. We kind of live in this society where stuff like performance enhancing drugs and plastic surgery are all getting more and more normalized and advertised,
Yep.
where you'll have these big corporations go, oh, hey, you know what? Your nose is kind of big. You should kind of get that shrunk down. Or,
Yeah.
oh, like you're kind of looking like a twig there, Satyr. Maybe you should take some of this performance enhancing steroid, and then you'll look like $100. Actually, sorry, not $100. That's cheap.
Yeah.
I'm like lowballing here. You'll look
Yeah.
like $1 million
There we go.
if you take this for a while. And you know what? Like it's just not natural. You can take a lot of enjoyment out of just being a regular dude, just a regular balanced dude with some quirks here and there. Like, oh, I played RuneScape for 1,500 billion million trillion hours. You can take a lot of enjoyment out of just being a normal dude,
Yep.
and I think it
Well,
should be celebrated more.
you're totally right. It's yeah. No, it's just good to have a good life balance. So now that we've covered the whole fitness arc, and I just got to say to finish off, like I am just like I feel like your whole journey with that is inspiring. So keep it up.
I
And
think you and me had a very similar journey, to be honest. I think both
we
of us
did.
are
Yeah.
very enthusiastic individuals who have the same kind of understandings. And it's wild to me how I can have so much in common with a dude who grew up in the deep south of the States, and I'm in the opposite
No, no,
corner of
no,
the
no, no, no,
NA.
no, no, no. I didn't grow up in the deep south. I know I like started streaming in
Oh,
Alabama, but no, I'm not actually from there. I'm from Oregon.
oh, so you moved back. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
well,
yeah. So I'm
forgive me
from
for
Oregon.
not knowing my
Yeah, no, no,
my
no, no.
Sae Bae
That
lore.
that that is actually a common mistake that people think because I obviously everybody knew I was like, oh, you live in Alabama. No, I wasn't from there. I still do not understand Southern culture like at all, to be honest, because I just isolated myself in my room for 4 years there. So I am
How'd
I
you
am
even end up in
Oregonian at
Alabama?
heart. What? Sorry.
How'd you even end up there? That's such a strange place to end up.
So I grew up in Oregon, and for like 17 years, and or I guess 18 years technically, and then I moved. So I would go to school out of state, and then when I turned 23, that is when I started streaming. And my older brother had just graduated from college, so he moved out to Maryland for an internship, and I was gonna go back to school out of state, but I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna like hold off on school and try this streaming thing. So I moved out to Baltimore with my brother, and we were out there for like 6 months, and then he got a legitimate job in Alabama. So I just went with him,
Oh
and I was in
wow.
Alabama for 4 years, just living with him and just having dirt cheap rent, just streaming. And then
Oh
eventually,
hell yeah.
eventually I was like, I really miss Oregon and I want to live on my own. Now, Oregon was definitely like probably the worst place financially to go live because it's fucking expensive here. But
Oh yeah. Oh,
I've
100%. It's
I've
probably better than California to be fair, but still
slightly.
pretty
Yeah,
bad.
it's pretty egregious here. But I've been living here for now like 14 months, and I'll probably dip in the next six because my lease ends in like 6 months, and I'm like I'll probably dip somewhere cheaper again. We'll see.
I had a fun trip to the States recently actually. I went to Arkansas for the solar eclipse.
Oh
It was very
shit!
cool.
Yeah, so that was just what, last week. I can't even remember when that was.
It was April 8th, I believe.
Okay,
I brought my telescope. I got some really cool photos. And you know what? I had a good time talking to all the local people and all the eccentric tourists that I bumped into as well.
that's awesome. Did you
It's
just go there
it's
alone or like with family or what?
So I took my dad there, and we both like spent some good quality father-son time
Fuck
in
yeah,
the deep south. Maybe that's not quite deep south, but no, I think it's one of those like literal who states for sure.
yeah, well,
And just
literally,
like
literally.
hearing the how people talk different, like it felt like a completely different form of English that they were speaking. Uh, no, I got to know lots of people then at the time. It was cool going out there. It almost felt like British Columbia out there in Arkansas with all the forests there and like little hills and mountain ranges. That was
That's
pretty sweet.
how's your relationship with your like parents and your dad?
My dad's getting old. He's getting real old, and he needs some assistance. But
Oh,
that's
really?
what I'm there for. Well, he's just like he's definitely losing the sauce at this point.
Mm,
He's getting into his 60s. Uh, and yeah, he like not really like together with my mom, and he's
mm,
not doing like a whole lot. But he has been finding some nice things he can do where he found a nice hobby in the form of hiking and camping, so good for him for sure. But yeah, he's definitely like a lot less sociable than he was. He kind of like yeah, he's just lost in the sauce at this point, but me and my brother were both in really good mindsets to take care of the guy.
that's good. Yeah, interesting. Okay,
Oh, sorry, yeah,
let's
you go ahead.
no, you're good. I just love like it's just cool talking to you again. It's been so goddamn long. It's literally been like 2.5 years, so it's just nice catching up and just seeing what's up. But it's
I
really
want to just
cool.
I want to just
Yeah,
reveal the information here on how I ended up on the cast again. Dude, I
yeah.
just wanted to message you because my friend Ian linked me a Raids 4 Mega Rare thing YouTube video that you posted, and you guys weren't even talking, like you guys weren't proper talking about a Raids 4 Mega Rare reward. Like you were just kind of memeing, like, oh, this Sonic the Hedgehog ring that
Yeah,
makes you
yeah,
turn into a ball and go 3 tiles at a time. Like it's just like ain't no way, dude.
yeah.
So I just sent you a message where I actually have a. I made recently a pitch for an actual Raids 4 Mega Rare that I thought would be really cool, and then you're just like, nah, I'm not gonna read this, dude. I'm just gonna have Bcguppy on the cast again, dude. Like I ain't reading this TXT. It looks big and scary. I'm just gonna have him on the cast again. And you know what? It was the correct decision, I think.
Yeah, no, I literally just basically forced you to come on the cast. So let's actually. I have this pulled up now because I want to see this. So I'll just literally have you explain this. And
Oh hell
again,
yeah.
this is basically a blind review. So just tell me what this is. It says Gauntlets of Guthix.
That's right. The glove slot, it has very balanced stats where it has plus 15 in everything except for range strength and mage strength. Just like go through the stats. You can see it's like kind of similar to Barrow's gloves where it has all the same stats and the same things. It's meant to be an item of balance, right? So you get the same stats for all styles. Like think of it as a hybrid glove where you can use it for melee range, mage, etc. And then I want you to go down and I want you to read the passive effect that it has.
It says allows you to equip up to 10 rings. This is fucking
It's right.
it's fucking what's his face from the Marvel what am
Dude, the Thanos
I
gauntlet,
Thanos.
yeah, dude.
Yeah, Thanos.
Like
There we
like
go.
just dude, if I made a yellow text black background post on Reddit about this, I would just make the image for this just two infinity gauntlets, dude.
Literally. So it says if multiple rings boost a single combat stat, the ring with the highest bonus will apply. If all rings are worn, this gives Gauntlets of Guthix the following stats. Jesus Christ, dude. Are you sure about this? Dude.
So
Okay,
okay,
let's see this.
so
Let's
think
see.
of it this way.
Okay.
So you have one ring slot, right?
Okay.
If you wear the gauntlets, your ring slot is gone, and instead you get like a little drop down in your equipment screen where you can go to all your rings and then you can equip 10 rings in there. Like you can just straight up throw in your Bellator ring, your Altar ring, Ring of the Gods, Ring of Endurance, Light Bearer. You can put all of those on, but you'll only get the highest stat of each ring. So say you're wearing a Bellator and an Altar ring together, you'll get the strength bonus of the Altar ring because it's plus 12, it's higher than the Bellator, but you'll get the slash bonus of the Bellator at plus 20. So you'll get both.
That is, don't you think that's a little bit OP? I mean, I guess this is
So
raids 4 reward, but
this is a
I'm looking at
raid
this,
for mega rare. This is supposed to be
the mega
as
rare. Yeah,
esteemed and highly valued as the twisted bow. Tumikin's shadow. That item is crazy. By the way, I
it
just
is
started using it for the
disgusting.
first time this year. And the scythe of Vitur. So so where we have a melee mega rare, a ranged mega rare, and a mage mega rare, my concept here is a mega rare for all styles that has all these like bells and whistles that make it exciting. So think of it as a Giga glove, but it's also got some cool concepts where you can wear 10 rings, and there's more too. Like scroll down and read more of the stuff that's there because there is more.
So the thing, okay, so let me read this, especially for those listening on Spotify, because there are some people listening.
Yeah.
So let me read this. Additional effect. Okay, well, let me just take a brief, just a briefing on what the stats would really be. So this is assuming you're equipping all rings. I already have some objections to this, which I'll cover later, but I want to get the full concept before I start objecting to things. Um, but yeah, the stab. So basically, like the highest stats you're going to be seeing with these gloves are plus 35 slash. You're going to have 25 ranged, 30 magic. The defenses are all 35 across the board. The melee strength is 27. Magic strength is plus 7%, which isn't egregious at all because it's only plus 3 from Tormented.
Oh, it's
Or
this. It has the plus 5% from Torm, like that's built in the glove, and then the plus 2 is from the Magus ring. So it's the same mage strength as before. It's just like in one package, basically. So your strength bonus, I think the strength bonus did go up by 1 compared to ferocious, because that's what the base stats of the gloves are. Like you're not like the I have the second set of stats there, but That's
So
assuming you have all the rings on. It's not adding on to more rings.
okay, let me ask about this. So if you're wearing this, are you able to wear a ring as on top of this? So
No, you're not.
okay, so do so what? So is it just gonna like cancel? So if you try to equip a ring, is it just not? Is it just not gonna add the stats? You could still have the ring. So if you wanted like a ring of wealth or a ring of dueling, you could still wear that technically. But it's
Yeah, you could. You could
so
put that in the gauntlet, right? Like you can your one ring slot just becomes 10 basically. So see the stats of the gauntlets aren't actually going up. I'm just adding the stats of all the rings together.
okay. Let's read this. So additional effect: while worn, the gauntlets function as a weapon if the player's hands are empty. But you're never gonna be doing that. Well, here, let me read this. The attack styles are as follows. So melee attack, again, this is assuming your hands are empty. A 5-tick melee punch that has double accuracy and damage, grants controlled XP. Ranged, a 5-tick ranged attack that throws 2 javelins with an animation similar to the Javelin Colossus attack animation. Deals 2 hits, each with 50% reduced damage. Javelins may be collected by Ava devices, has a range of 6. And Magic, a 5-tick auto cast spell of the player's choice with an animation similar to the Shockwave Colossus attack animation, can only auto cast elemental spells and Claws of Guthix. Grants 75% bonus damage to spells cast this way, has a range of 6. Special attack, and then this is the special attack. Enforce Edicts, 60% special attack. All damage dealt and all damage taken becomes half of the attack's max hit for 1 minute while the gauntlets are worn. This special attack will also replace the special attack of weapons without a special attack if the gauntlets are worn. So, okay, let me. I want to hear from you first about the whole thing and just how you came up with this and what you think is good about this. Maybe some cons you think, and then I'm gonna deconstruct this. So
So
I'll let you say first. Yeah.
the concept here is you have these really, really powerful gloves on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're attacking with just the gloves, like punching things, it should be doing like it should be dealing quite some damage. So it has its own like unique attacking style if you don't wear any weapons or shields. So it's meant to be a Giga Salamander in that regard, where it's not supposed to be like super super good to just use these, but it's an option that's there. Like you can punch stuff. It gives you the ability to throw javelins without a ballista, and it lets you like kind of cast spells similar to like I don't know how I would even reference this, but like think of a sorcerer that's shooting off spells with just his hands.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the concept here is you wear these gloves, you can fire off these cool spells with just your hands rather than using a staff or a shield. You just like straight up you can cast like a fire surge just using the power of your hands. So it's got that balance concept, right, where it's Gothics themed, it's balanced in all styles, and the concept is that the max hit of all the styles is the same. So with melee, you can punch like a 60. With ranged, you can throw 2 javelins that hit like 60, and then you can use mage that hits 60. So it's meant to be very, very balanced between all 3 styles, hence the whole Gothics theme here. And then
Interesting.
the special attack is also Gothics themed, where you're kind of balancing the amount of damage you're doing. So say your max hit with like I don't know, like an Inquisitor Mace is 55, or let's just round it down to 54 just for simplicity's sake. So right now with the Ink Mace, you would hit between 0 and 54 if you hit successfully. With the special attack, Enforce Edicts, it would make it so you hit half of that all the time. So you'll only hit 27s if you hit successfully. You can still hit zeros if you're not hitting successfully, but
Mm-hmm.
basically it's making your damage roll
Exactly
clamped
half.
at the middle. Yeah, so it's you remove the RNG completely and you're only hitting the same amount for the duration of the special attack. So you do lose special attack energy in exchange for this concept where you're only hitting the same thing. And it works for the damage that you're getting received too. So say you miss a Jad flick in the Inferno where the Jad max is 110. If you have the spec up, the Jad will hit you for 55 instead of a random number between 0 and 110. It'll just clamp the damage at 55.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm going to just some guy just said hi, Sae Bae in game. Okay,
Oh, nice.
I'm gonna deconstruct this a little bit. First off, I just want to share overall thoughts. Um, there is way too much going on. That's just fully honest. I feel like there's way too much. Like, if it was just the gauntlets with the stats and stuff like that, that's a very simplistic thing where it's just stat. But then I feel like there's way too many additional effects, and I feel like the effects are not even going to be used because you're always going to have a weapon on. Like, it's just you're trolling if you're just going to be using the gloves just for funsies. You may as well put a scythe on, or just anything else. So
It is true in that regard. It is kind of true.
Mhm.
But I'm sure there will be uses for these three attack styles. There will surely be some use found for those because they do hit pretty hard. Like you could even last hit with a lot of these. Like I don't know, like you're killing Tecton with a ink mace, and then like you just like take off the mace and your defender to punch him for the last hit right before he gets to the anvil. Like little things like that. Uh, it's just meant to be kind of like an off-brand way of attacking with your cool new mega rare gloves.
Yeah, I just feel like it's never going to be better than just equipping a weapon for a last hit or anything like that. Like, why not just equip an Elder Maul like right at the end and just have a massive hit? That's way more than
That's
just the
true.
gloves with a.
That would mean you'd have to bring the Elder Maul, which a lot of people might not want to do. Eh, there is utility in having a single weapon for all three styles just by itself, especially if it's something that you're going to be wearing most of the time. So
That's
I don't
fair.
know,
That's
like
fair.
it's not meant to be good. It's not meant to be like, wow, I'm hitting 80s with this thing. This is
Hmm.
cracked. It's just meant to be like a interesting way to make the weapon more fleshed out. Or sorry, I'm calling it a weapon, but it's just a glove.
Hmm.
It's meant to give it a lot more flair and excitement than just like a glove that you just wear and then that's all it does. And it's best in slot for all three styles, like yada yada yada.
So my other concern is the 10 rings that are going to be equipped. Just the sheer power. Like, if you were to completely remove the additional effect and the special attack and everything, and literally just have it so it's the 10 rings, I feel like it's still. It's almost like, okay, so this is so one. I think it's already overpowered, just stats wise, and I'm just being fully honest with you because I can be. If
Oh,
you were
be honest,
if you were
like
anybody else,
I
I'd
would
be
love
like a lot more.
feedback.
I'd be a lot more like, oh, like that's cool and all. But like, I know it's you, Bcguppy, so I'm just gonna
Uh-huh.
just say it how it is. I think it's too OP. Plus, this is my concern: is even if it was balanced to have appropriate stats across the board, I don't know if the community or if we as a player base want to go back down the road where we just have a single glove that's best for everything. Because, and who knows, maybe I could be wrong on this. I just feel like we already have, like we used to have Barrow's gloves, which were best in slot for everything. And then we actually transitioned to a place where we do have 3 different styles of gloves. We have a Tormented bracelets and the Zarite Van braces and Ferocious gloves. So are we just reverting back to just a kind of extreme mega rare Barrow's glove type thing where it's just better for everything, and now we're removing the whole concept of having glove switches again? So that's one thing to keep in mind, and I don't know how the community feels. I personally kind of like the differentiation personally, but if it, I mean, I'm not against having a mega rare if it does that. The other concern is just simply the 10 rings attached. Like, perfectly makes sense. We have 10 fingers. So it makes
Uh-huh.
sense, but I'm like, I brought up the concept of a few times in the past several months where I said, what if Raids 4, and I said, what if Raids 4 just allowed a secondary ring slot? And almost everybody said that would be OP. Like, literally just having one more ring slot. And this is not even assuming there's any other weapon upgrades or anything. Just an additional ring slot right above the ring slot we have right now. And the people I've talked to about it were kind of like, that might be a little bit OP because then you could just have 2 Ultors on, or something. And then I said, And then I said, well, what if you had to have a different ring? Well, then people just said, well, now you're just going to constantly have light bearer and something else, and even that feels
Altar and
OP.
Berserkering, let's go.
Yeah, that's another thing. But people were like, okay, so it would be kind of like this, like a similar concept to what you said, where if one of if a ring is giving a stat to something, it would always like the max one would override what the other one is doing, basically, like you said. So you're
Yeah.
always just getting the highest, and then you have to have another ring. So, a lot of situations people might just have. I don't know. I feel like in most situations, people are going to have a light bearer, and then they're going to have their main ring, and then they'll even bring additional rings in their inventory to switch out just for that one. But I don't know. I feel like there's too much going on with this idea, and it's way too overpowered, and people would have a big problem with it, especially just the sentiments I'm getting from people where I'm just offering one additional ring slot, and people freak out about it. So, my personal
So,
take.
Sater, me and you, we definitely have different opinions on what a mega rare from a raid should be.
Yes,
Because,
we do.
from my understanding, you like to have all items be niche regardless of their rarity, where they like fill in a gap somewhere, right? Like you want the twisted bow to be good at, okay, X and X and X place,
Yes.
where it's not very good in other places. You wanted the shadow to be niche. You wanted it to be like, okay, you use it at like Vest Portal or something where it's you
Well,
still use other mage weapons, right? Like your I guess your ideal view of the game is for there to be all these different weapons that you use in different places, which for the most part I agree with. Like don't get me wrong, I do agree
mhm.
with that. But when it comes to mega rares, I think they should supersede a lot of the balancing that the game has in favor of like each raid releases one item that's just busted. That's just crazy good in its value. And I
Mm.
think the way that the scythe is balanced, the way that the shadow and T-bow are balanced, those are pretty much deleting a lot of weapon variety on their own. But I think it's okay because they're one bill plus items. They're rare. They're the big drop that you can get
Mhm.
from from this raid, right? And if you were to make a raids for mega rare that doesn't hit in the same way that these three weapons are, it's just gonna kind of like kill the hype a lot. Where you like say a good example would be like imagine we did release a glove that it was just like it just had uh maybe like the same stats as ferocious gloves, tormented bracelet, and Zerite van braces, but like slightly toned down,
Mm.
where there's a trade off. But
Well, yeah, that
you'd be
wouldn't that wouldn't
trading
be
it off
appropriate.
you would be trading it off for items that have been in the game forever that are so easy to obtain. Like compare ferocious gloves, it's just a Hydra leather drop from Hydra, and Hydra is a piss easy boss.
Yep.
Tormented bracelet, it's a Zerite or sorry, it's Zerite bracelet. It's a Zenite bracelet that you just enchant and you just get the Zenite shard from a demonic gorilla. It's just like it's like a Slayer NPC that you just kill after doing this quest, and that's it. Like there's no deeper mechanics to it.
Mhm.
Zerite Van Braces, on the other hand, that's the drop from Nex, and I wanted to make it that maybe you would still use Zerite Van Braces some places, so I didn't give the Gauntlets of Guthix the +2 range strength that the Zerite Van Braces had, so you could still have max range strength with the Van Braces. But anyway, like if you released a glove that was just slightly reduced from Pharaoh and Torm and all that, there would be so many places where you just not bring it. It'd be similar to Brimstone boots of today, where it's supposed to be balanced boots, but no one is wearing those because it doesn't give the strength bonus and
Yep.
the accuracy that primordials do. So you have cases where people are just camping prims everywhere because like who needs the ranged accuracy from pegs? And no one cares about mage accuracy with Eternals unless you're only like purely camping mage for something.
Speaking of Eternals, and we'll cover the whole blog that literally came out this morning. Why didn't Eternals get a +1 magic damage increase? Like, what the fuck
At
was
the
that?
time, they were being so careful with power creep. They released Cerberus, and
No, no,
then
no, no. But why not now? Because they already just added a like +1 to all these robes that have always never had any magic. Like, why didn't they touch Eternals? Like
oh,
that.
this is like a different topic entirely. I want to
Yeah, yeah,
hold
it
off
is.
on
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
because
Yeah. We'll
I
hold
still
off.
want to make my piece here
Yeah,
with
yeah. No,
these
no, you're good.
ballots that I'm releasing. So a Raid's 4 mega rare in my eyes. It can't be a new weapon. Like if you added a melee scythe or like I don't know, like a scythe except for stab or a scythe except for crush,
Hmm.
then you're just gonna kind of devalue the scythe in a way
So
where you're taking away from this mega rare item from a raid that's still held in high regard, Theater of Blood.
So I am totally down for more of an equipment slot mega rare. That's fine. You probably heard. I'm pretty sure it was on that clip that you heard, and then you DM'd me right after. Was that the one where I was talking about those kind of like abyssal knuckles, the 2 tick
Yeah,
melee weapon? I
yeah, exactly.
I really because yes, we have the scythe, we have a Tebow, we have a shadow. There are still niches to fill. Like for example, one really powerful niche would be bringing back the Heka. So it doesn't have to be exactly the Heka, but I would love to see a fast attacking mage weapon because all we have the super OP mage weapon that's the shadow, and it's 5 tick. It's super long casting. What if we had a very short range magic? And this could even literally, I'm imagining right now because I love the idea of like sort of gauntlets or knuckles or something like that. What if we had these mage gloves? So they're not actually a glove slot; it's actually a weapon slot. It's a two-handed weapon slot that you're equipping these like flames basically in your hands, and you're shooting out 2 tick attacking mage bombs on things. But it only has the range of like a blowpipe. So this can't be used everywhere. This can't be used at Ulm. This can't be used at certain places. But in the places it does, it would be as powerful, maybe even slightly more powerful than a shadow. And I'm not saying we need to bring that out, but I am really wanting, if we do decide on a weapon, I would love to see a weapon that's fast attacking. I think that's the way to go. I think it's a 2 tick melee weapon or a 2 tick mage weapon would be just phenomenal. I think it would just like shake things up so heavily, and I don't think it would be the worst thing because I even brought up the abyssal knuckles being better than a scythe because there are so many downsides to it. Like you have to not be losing ticks. As soon as you lose ticks, boom, you've already like the scythe is now better. But when it comes to equipment, I think the glove slot being just overall best, that could be an option, but I think the whole 10 ring thing can be a bit convoluted in my personal opinion, and I don't even think it needs to go to that ring thing. I think it literally could just have high stats if that was a mega rare, and it doesn't need to include anything with the rings as much as it makes sense. I feel like it's just complicated. So my opinion, of course, not I would love to hear what people think about this in the comments, honestly.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. Uh, But yeah, you keep bringing up all, oh, this weapon has downsides, and I don't want to talk
Yeah,
about downsides at all when it comes to a mega rare. I want it to
that's
be
fair.
you use this thing and you're popping off. There's no downsides, and that's kind of the case for all the three mega rares currently.
Hmm.
You shouldn't even be thinking about like trying to compete with the scythe or the T-bow or the shadow at places when you're designing a mega rare. Like maybe for like a more common drop from a raid, you could talk about something like a channeling staff where you just stand still and you're shooting off 1 tick mage attacks that have a max hit of like 10. Like that would be more appropriate for less rare rewards from a new raid, but there
Hmm.
should be one big ticket item from each raid, I think, and we shouldn't really stray away from the pattern that we have now, where every raid has one giga rare, super crazy OP thing.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I'm on board with that, but it can't be OP in everything because the shadow is the most egregious example, and even that is not OP at everything because it's a mage weapon, so it's already only 33% of what you're going to be attacking. The Tebow obviously has even more limitations, but it still is a bazooka. Scythe is still a bazooka where it's good at, which is large NPCs. Um, Again, I want to hear what other people have to say about this. Just a glove, again, even if it had none of the 10 ring, none of the passive effects, even if it was just a glove that was as powerful as it is with the 10 rings, minus actually needing the 10 rings, would that even be like warranted? Like, is it too powerful? And I think it is personally. But
I would be very happy to get rid of the glove switches and the ring switches that are happening right now because we're trending towards this uh trend where you have to do a 10-way switch to get all
ooh,
your like
okay.
max gear.
So is that partly where this is coming from? Where it's
Yeah,
literally
yeah,
okay? So
absolutely.
that is something to be said because I that wasn't even on my mind about this whole thing. So in your head, on top of this being good, it also is eliminating the frustration of having to do like 3 rows of switches to get your
Yeah,
maximum.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
see.
These gloves are like it is kind of intimidating having a light bearer on at the same time as an altar and like Venator and all that. But like ultimately the concept here is that you're getting things that you could have already had with a 12-way switch or whatever you want to call it. I think 10-way is the max. I don't know the
Mm,
exact number, but you can already do these things, but you just have to bring all these switches, and then like you have this inventory space problem where you can only have 28 things in your bag, and all of a sudden you're going to do stuff like TOB with like 3 empty inventory spaces. It just sucks.
I
And
see. So
these
that
gloves are
is
meant to alleviate that.
at, to me that's how you should have sold this initially from the get go. Is the like the whole abstract basically it's just like we are subject to like most people want to do a nice little clean 2x4 switch like 8
Yeah.
max like that feels very good. That's still a lot, but it's better than doing all of a sudden like a 10 or 11 way switch just to maximize every little thing. So that would have been the way to sell it to me initially from the get go. Is just understanding like this is the objective of a mega rare is to eliminate the frustration of having to go down to a third row to get maximum switches. Um, that makes a lot more sense. And
You voting yes or
yeah,
no? It's in the poll. It's in the poll booth. You got to make a decision, yes or no, Sater.
I mean what it currently is, I would vote no. But I'm not against a concept like that. But it has to be less OP in my personal opinion. Like literally, if there were to be a thing called I mean, I'm even literally just thinking of a, just some mega ring or something that holds all rings. And so now there are no ring switches. Like if you get this mega rare, this ring is now basically a key ring or whatever that steel key ring thing is, where it holds and it maintains all the stats and it has everything into one ring. So now there are no more ring switches. You just put this ring on and you're good to go forever for all pieces of content. That would be an amazing ring switch that people would argue is extremely OP because it just literally has all the effects. But the positives, if we see it this way, is that there will not be any more ring switches. So you don't have to worry about that anymore. And it is a mega rare. And the same thing could be applied to gloves as well, where you have a glove thing where you attach your gloves into it. You like funnel them into it. And now you don't have any more glove switches. So you have these 2 mega rares basically. It's like the ring holder and the glove holder. It holds everything you want. And now you don't have to worry ever about glove or ring switches. And that is the entire point of it. And I wouldn't even say those need to be the mega rares. I would say those could come from not even raids. I mean, it could come from raids as well. It could come from any piece of content, but holders of rings or gloves, where now you just combine all the power and do it. Again, it's not adding to it, but it's getting the maximum values of it and capping it there.
Well, first of all,
Yeah,
I think a glove holder as a concept is a little silly. Like trying to wear all 3 gloves at the same
yeah,
time.
yeah.
I think
It
that's
makes no
silly.
sense.
And
Yeah, it
and
does.
and this is why I think there should just be a glove that just beats everything. That's just the glove to wear when you're doing
I mean, that's what it
content
would be
that needs all 3
ultimately,
styles.
and it doesn't need to
Well,
be
yeah,
called a glove
but
holder. But
you don't
yeah,
need to put your Zerite Van Braces in there. Like just add a glove that's just the same as Zerite and Torm and Ferocious. Like I don't care about devaluing those items. They're
yeah,
like
that's
who
fair.
cares? Nex is
Okay.
already fucking super loaded on stuff that it drops, and like who cares about Zenite prices?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Like
wouldn't
just
it?
add a glove that's just all 3. You don't have to hold for gloves specifically. You shouldn't need to hold all 3 of your gloves in one slot. For
Yeah,
rings, it makes more sense to put all the rings in like you have to actually still wear the rings. Like I still think you should be able to like get value out of all these rings. It would actually bring more value to the rings, by the way. Like no one is using a treasonous ring right now, but if you could wear all the rings at the same time, and suddenly like, oh hey, you know, it's actually worth wearing this treasonous ring now because it's just free stab bonus.
Well, okay, so you saw. Okay, so I'm trying to. How much of the Desert Treasure 2 bosses have you done so far? Like, have you done enough? Like, have you killed all four? I mean, you've killed all
Well, I
four of
did
them
the
because you did
quest,
the
right?
quest, but have you been killing
Um,
post quest?
so I finished all the Verdorvis CAs. So I did Awaken Verdorvis. That was really fun, and I like kind of dipped my toes into Duke a little bit, but I haven't really gone back. Okay, you know what? You know what's crazy
What?
is I did TOA for the first time yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, like that is how long I've been
What do you
gone
think
for.
about that? What do you think about that raid? Did you do it solo or did you have a team?
Oh, I did both. I had fellas in for a while, and I did it myself for a while. It was really fun. Although, please delete the monkey room. Holy cow, that
They're
room is
making
bad.
change. You saw the changes they're making, right?
I did see that. You always max it on the monkeys.
That's amazing. As if it's the right style, that's gonna make that room feel so much better. It's not gonna be
Oh
perfect,
yeah.
but it's now we have explosions that are exploding monkeys, and you're max hitting every fucking time. Thank you. That feels
But
amazing.
to answer the question
Yeah.
about the DT2 bosses, yeah, I've done Awakened Vard. I thought that was really fun. I tried. Okay, so when I took my break from RuneScape, I sold like all my gear and I just had only platinum tokens on my account, right?
Yeah.
I tried Awaken Leviathan before buying any gear. So I was shooting it with an ACB and like full Armadillo D-hide on
Oh no.
and I was giving it a try. I was giving Awaken Levy a try, but yeah, I was getting owned. But
Yeah,
I
that
haven't
shit's
gone back
hard.
since I actually bought Max Gear again.
Okay.
So I'll at some point I'll go back and do all the Awakened bosses because right now I've only done Vard, and that was very, very fun.
So fun. That one's so fun.
Uh-huh.
Um.
So yeah, I'll go do the rest of the DT2
Okay.
bosses, but yeah, a
Well,
Whisperer is kind of boring anyway. It's like not very exciting.
Whisper becomes I hated Whisper the first 100 kills. I actually hated it. I was like, this is so stupid and boring. You keep having to go back to the Shadow Realm. This is so stupid. I actually started enjoying it because it was so chill. And it's so chill to the point where you don't even need food. So you just load up your inventory with prayer pots and you're just good to go for like just tons of kills in a row. And it just,
Mhm.
you kind of get that like whole trance state going. Like you're just chilling. But the whole reason I brought that up is because the Bellator ring, it was a really cool addition where it's +6 strength and +20 slash, which is very very well balanced. And
Huh?
you had mentioned the treasonous and the tyrannical ring.
Yeah, they suck.
I want those to have the Bellator treatment where those eventually get the +20 stab or the +20 crush with the +6 respectively, just across the board. So eventually, who knows? Maybe it'll be like a wilderness boss, some new wilderness group boss or something, where you get these upgrades to those rings that make them actually useful again. Now, this is besides the whole, ring of or the glove of Thanos coming out potentially. But if it wasn't for that, those rings would be amazing. And I'm on board with some sort of ring thing where you just can hold all your rings at once. I think in the future that could be a thing. But yeah, anyway, so here, let me I need a piss really fucking bad, I'll be
Oh,
honest.
dude, same.
Okay.
Let's
Well,
take a quick 2 minute.
sure, I'll be back. Project Rebalance item and combat adjustments. So obviously we've heard a lot about the whole project. I mean, I've seen so in how do I say this? In the past few months, we've seen a bunch of different project rebalancing. We're finally getting to like the really juicy stuff, in my opinion, which is all the item and combat stuff. And so this literally came out this morning, and let's just go right into it. So I'm gonna read, and then we'll discuss, and then I'll read again. We'll discuss, and I'll read. So each like segment. So let's just get right into it. Um, our third Project Rebalance blog focuses on item adjustments and other combat changes. Project Rebalance, combat, and item changes. Anxiously eyeballing your bank, wondering what changes Project Rebalance will bring to your favorite bits of gear? Well, wonder no longer, because here's the blog you've all been waiting for. Today we're talking buffs, debuffs, and other changes to various bits of combat gear. And just to round things out, we've also got some more combat changes for you. Before we move on, just like the last Project Rebalance blog, this one coincides with an open beta that you can take part in by jumping into any of the beta worlds once they're live today, which should be shortly after this post. These worlds feature all of the changes from the NPC defense changes blogs, and all of the changes from today's blog too. So jump in and take a look. So we're already seeing right here with the graphic, the buffs and the nerfs and the adjusted drop rates right here. So we're going to just get straight into them. Item adjustments. Before we get started, please note that the Tomes of Fire and Water will be adjusted as per our previous Project Rebalance blog. So we won't be rehashing those changes here. First, we'll look at perhaps the most anticipated or dreaded set of changes focused primarily on magic gear progression. Magic gear and the occult necklace. The occult necklace does an astronomical amount of lifting for magic's damage output. And to make a long story short, we think an item this powerful should set you back more than a mere 800k. For example, let's assume two players both have 99 magic and a fancy bit of barrows. Player A equips an occult necklace for 800k and calls it a day. Player B equips the ancestral set, a magus ring, eternal boots, gotta rock that fashionscape, and turns on augury, which sets him back a whopping 454 million GP. Now, who do you think kills the melee barrows brother fastest? If you answered player A, you're correct, and we hope you understand why this situation seems more than a little unfair. It's time to break the occult necklace's stranglehold on magic's gear progression. There are already too many occult necklaces out there for us to reasonably make them less common. Making them harder to get will just punish iron players who have to climb all the way to 93 Slayer for this all-important unlock. In addition, the occult necklace is so powerful that other gear upgrades become less exciting by comparison. So, yeah, they're going to be nerfing the occult. So I'll just, I guess, kind of just go over what they're proposing to change. We plan to kill two birds with one stone by redistributing the occult's necklace stats around other magic gear. So the occult necklace is basically being reduced from 10%, which it always has been since the introduction of the item, to 4%, which is actually wild because I remember saying I wanted to maybe see it go down to like 6%. And they're actually going lower than that, which I'm very happy about, honestly. And the ancestral robes are going from 2% to 4% each, which is a literal double. Virtus robes are going from 1% to 2%. Infinity robes from 0 to 1. Dagon High robes from 0 to 1. And Third Age is going from 0 to 1 as well. And Augury is going from 0 to 4%. And then there's a note saying Tunic Shadow doesn't multiply accuracy or damage bonuses gained from prayer. So it's going to remain at 4% rather than a 12%. So let's discuss. Bcguppy, you're here with me right now. What are your whole thoughts on that? I just dominated that first few minutes, just breaking it all down, but I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, see, here's the thing. Okay, if this is going to be a separate YouTube video, I got to reintroduce myself because like there's going to be people who watch this and they're like, "Oh, who is this dude that's just talking?" I'm Bcguppy. Been on the Sae Bae cast several times. I've been pretty good to talk about stuff like this where game rebalancing stuff because I'm pretty passionate about the game and I've had a long history of playing around with DPS calculators and all that. So that is why I'm here with you fellas today to discuss this cool new blog post that released just literally today. Like, this is cool that this coincides with the Sae Bae cast that I'm doing right now. Go check that out on Spotify, YouTube, etc., etc.
Hell
It's going to
yeah.
be worth listening to anyway.
There's
So
people that are listening to this full cast without seeing this segment, and they're like, "What the hell are you guys talking about?"
yeah, exactly. That's
They're
why I
already
wanted to
watching it.
reintroduce myself.
It's perfect
So
though.
so yeah, yeah, I've been playing the game lots. The game is good. OSRS looking great. Anyway, you can hear more about it on my cast. Go watch it if you haven't. Or if maybe you're listening to it right now, you probably are, to be honest. Anyway, so the occult, like people have been talking about the occult forever. Like, oh, 10% mage damage, and it's just like a random drop from just a pop mob where you just need 93 Slayer and it's a 1 in 512, not very rare, and you just barrage these things like for crazy good Slayer XP. Yeah, you really don't want items like the occult necklace where it's super easy to obtain and yet it's doing so much for you. I think items that are really strong or that are giving you a lot in certain places should be coming from more difficult parts of the game for sure. But there should still be, like middle grounds, right? Like where we have like Barrows and now we have Perilous Moons, where there's still like mid game gear that's pretty accessible. But the Occult Necklace has been best in slot for what feels like over 10 years now. And it's been doing more for Magic than any other individual piece in the game. Well, and maybe Shadow of Doomikin or Doomikin Shadow is a bit different, but anyway, so yeah,
No, I mean
Occult
the
getting nerfed is fully
occult is
warranted.
30% with Tunic and Shadow. So
Okay,
yeah, the occult
I
is still
listened. I
carrying that.
listened. I listened to the cast with Travis,
Yeah.
and you guys were talking about how an Occult gives the Shadow 11 max hits. Dude, I died laughing when I heard that because it's so true. Like, dude, you go from max hit of 55 to 66,
Yes.
and this thing
If you
is
miss
just the
that
necklace
switch,
that you
yeah,
just
you're
wear.
trolling.
So yeah, the occult being reduced makes sense. I'm surprised they reduced it so much though. I thought it would just be like a flat 5%, but no, they reduced it from 10 to 4. That's a bit more than I thought, but they're putting the mage damage on ancestral and Virtus stuff that, it's high end content rewards. So it makes sense for sure. What is interesting is that they're putting 1% on the other ones. So Infinity Dagon and even Third Age Mage, that really surprised me.
Yeah.
But it's only 1%. Like it feels like it does nothing. I kind of almost want to make a point here where all these tiny like 1% and 2% on all this gear, it's like not really very much. It'd be better if like using a trident just naked was weaker than it is currently, but the trade-off being that mage gear is giving you bigger percentages. So you'll see like you'll actually be able to tangibly think about how much like a 5% or a 10% bonus is giving you because 1% that's so small to me. But I guess I'm not really going to ask for the mage skill in general to be reworked from the ground up because it's probably out of the scope
It is.
of what could be done.
Yeah.
So what they're doing here is good. It's for sure a step in the right direction. Occult needed to be nerfed, and I feel like irons that don't have 93 Slayer yet are going to feel less like they're trolling when they're doing mage without an occult because occult is just so huge. It felt so bad to do Zulrah without an occult back on my old iron, and then I put on the occult, and I'm just doing so much more damage after getting 93 Slayer. So yeah, I like this progression change for sure.
There's definitely it's gonna be wonky for. I mean, I was reading some of the Twitter replies to this whole post that Jagex posted on Twitter, or X. I gotta start getting used to that. Jesus Christ.
I'm still calling it Twitter, dude. I'll
I
call it X
know.
from time to time though, because I think it's funny.
Yeah, but so there was some people mainly in the PK scene. I know Pierce Spam wasn't super happy about some of the changes. A cult has always been a huge item for any sort of account that's wanting to mage out in the wilderness. And if you can't afford the whole ancestral, you're just getting a huge debuff basically from this change. But I still think it's completely healthy for the game. It's going to clearly upset some metas and other things, but ultimately I think it's for the better health of the game to have these things balanced. And what's really cool, I'm thinking from an Iron Man's sort of gear progression standpoint, is like going in, getting your 93 Slayer, getting your occult, and then, going to chambers or whatever. Every single piece of ancestral is just going to be such a massive upgrade. It's like getting an additional, nerfed occult. It's just like another occult, another occult, another occult. But again, we're seeing occults as, only 4% now instead of 10. But that's really cool that every piece of ancestral is very meaningful. One of the things that's really interesting is, we see down here, it's saying, how does this shake up damage wise? It's saying occult plus full ancestral plus augury. So augury is getting that 4%, which is cool, is now 20% magic damage, up from 16%. But we have to remember that if you're doing Slayer tasks, that Slayer helmet doesn't have any. So it's still back to the 16%, and you're required to have augury now. Actually, I take it back. It's 18% because what it used to be, because the Ancestral Hat had a 2% and you were using a Slayer Helm before. So technically, it actually still is better if you're using Augury, but it is slightly worse if you're not using Augury. So Augury is very important now. I was actually, this might take a lot more like work on their end to implement something like this, but I was really hoping that Augury, on top of having a 4% damage, or like magic damage, it would also have a 4% or even higher, maybe just 4% is fully justified, is 4% magic negation as well. So incoming magic attacks, if you're praying Augury, actually have a slight damage negation. Now, 4% isn't massive at all, but at least for something like PvP, when people are using Augury against you, it would be cool to be able to pray Augury back and just cancel out that extra damage incoming just very slightly. And I think it would make it just even more slightly a more defensive prayer. But again, I don't really care that much. I don't think it would be that big of a deal regardless. But
When it comes to augury, I kind of wish it was just in line with piety and rigor, where it was just like all the numbers were just identical. And mage worked in a very similar way to range, where you have like mage strength that isn't in percentages, and it's actually just strength bonus.
yeah,
And it would be more intuitive than all these like damage charts that you see with the Trident of the Seas and the Swamp and the Sang and Tumikin's Shadow, where
it's
it has
dumb.
like fixed max hits. Uh, I would like to see this as a whole, but again, I don't really want to ask for the whole mage skill to be reworked, even though ultimately, if it was up to me, I would just completely rework the mage skill in general, where it's more in line with melee and range, where these prayers are doing 20% more damage for all styles, for each style, and just have everything be kind of parallel. But
It's
yeah,
so hard.
I think
Yeah.
that's probably too difficult.
It's not
Yeah,
even
it,
like it's too difficult. It's just that we have to remember, like, there are so many players that would just get it would just it's almost like a minor form of EOC, where it's like, Jesus Christ, everything's
that's
changed.
true. But
And
isn't that
people,
the point of Project Rebalance though, to
yeah,
like
they have to
fix the
go.
game?
Yeah, but they have to take little steps. Like, even the steps we think are big are technically very small. Even the elemental weaknesses and ranged styles that they were adding, like, that is something so big. But ultimately, when you look at it, it's actually still a pretty small change that's not shaking too many things up.
Oh, I want to butt in and say one thing about the whole elemental
Yeah,
weakness thing.
yeah,
Um, because I'm not going to get an opportunity to say this again. I'm just going to really quickly say this, but they added these elemental weaknesses, but I think they should also add elemental strengths, where if you're hitting a fire giant with a fire spell, it's not doing like the full damage. It like heals the fire giant instead, or does like super minimal damage. I think if they're going to go the route of having things weak to stuff, they should also go the route of having things strong to stuff too. Uh, it would make a lot of sense
yeah.
rather
And
than
that
the
and
current thing
and
where you're just hitting a fire giant with fire strike.
the thing is, that does make sense, but I feel like even if Jagex were to see that as being like completely fitting of something like this, them putting that down on a blog post is just going to make things look more overly complicated. So it's something they have to just incrementally add. And they even said that from the get-go. Like, they're saying in the future they could still look at monsters and add adjustments here and there over time, but they have to just be so careful with things. They have to be so careful with not saying too much, not adding way too much that's overly complicated. And as soon as there's, fire giants that now, just have resistance to fire spells and stuff like that, which makes perfect sense. As soon as that's in a blog post and there's extra information on that, people are just going to be like, what the fuck is going on? So they have to be so careful.
EOC, EOC, EOC. Anyway, let's continue here.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, this is all shaking up. They said, this is what's going to be happening, but let's continue down. These changes bring the necklace's power a little more in line with its obtainability, so that players can feel themselves getting stronger as they unlock other gear. Additionally, Augury now has greater offensive power, increasing the value of the Arcane Prayer Scroll. We also see new utility for robe sets. Okay. Well, I'll just read this just in case. Which are currently best suited for accounts with defense limitations. We want to see Aram's robes sit in a unique, tankier battle mage niche, with defense that outshines other options in exchange for slightly less offensive potential. That is another thing we didn't really talk about, was Arams is not seeing any sort of... I would literally be okay if Arams got a plus 1% from...
Panic sell Arams.
Yeah, Arams is going to be
Uh,
like legit dog shit
they should
if
make it.
this...
They should make it pretty tanky. Like they should really just buff Arams too, where they're giving it a bunch of defense.
Yeah, no, I mean
Uh,
this is like what I'm saying about like Augury getting a defense negate, or a magic damage negation effect. What if Arams had something like that, where like incoming mage attacks, or I guess it wouldn't be mage attacks. Actually, how would that work? Because
dude, if you
that's
did
not
that,
meant to be that.
I can
Yeah.
instantly see people soloing Corp with Arams on.
Yeah, it would have, yeah, which wouldn't really make sense because it should be d'hide. So I don't know how they're trying to go about it. I would be okay, honestly, if Arams had a plus 1% magic damage though on each piece, just so that it's not falling way behind, because it's falling way behind right now. Way behind. But I don't know. If they don't make any changes, Arams gonna just be kind of shit. It does come from Barrows, so but
But yeah, keep in mind that they're buffing Infinity, Dagon High, and Third Age. Like, dude, those all those items are very hard to obtain.
yeah,
So it's very balanced. Arams is way
you're right.
easier by comparison. So no, I think Arams is fine, but if they want to go
Okay.
with
Maybe
the
just make it more
tanky niche,
maybe
yeah,
just
just make
make
it
it more
tankier.
tanky. Yeah, just make it more tanky. That
Make
would
it
actually be okay.
yeah, that's it. That's give it a lot of mage defense too. I would love to see it have a lot of mage defense.
I'm
That's the
down with
thing
that
that I want
too.
to see them add a bunch to. Make it better than Carol's for mage defense even.
Nah, I would say keep Carol's better, but make this have just right, like just across the board, just add an additional like 5 or 10 defense to every single thing. Like even that alone per piece would just make it somehow fill some sort of niche if you wanted to
Yeah, give it
really
a
be
little bit
tanky.
of love, like
Yeah,
everything else is getting to even it out. That makes sense.
I'm down for that. Okay. For players with near best in slot setups, these changes buff Magic and bring other weapons closer to Tunic and Shadow. Now, this approach still has its issues. Magic has traditionally struggled to keep up with other corners of the combat triangle in PvP, and these changes make it even weaker, especially for one defense accounts. We think we could resolve these issues with a blighted necklace slot and a little more damage on Elder Chaos Druid robes, but we'd like to hear your feedback first. Yeah, that would be cool. Elder Chaos Druid robes, if those had 1%, I'm down, because those are literally have like no defense to it, and the people that are wearing them are one defense accounts anyway, so I actually am not against having those have 1% as well, because there are the drawbacks of it's just literally like wearing paper.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of, we'd also like to hear about other bits of gear that deserve a little boost. We can even work in increments of 0.5% if it helps. I would just stick with 1% personally. That's my take. So the last bit on this before we cover Soul Reaper Axe. We're committed to bringing the Occult Necklace down a notch, but remember that it will still remain the best in slot necklace offering for any Magic setup and will likely remain affordable. That's a good deal as far as rebalances go. Any final thoughts you have on that before we cover Soul Reaper?
I will laugh if they pitch raids for rewards and it's just going to be the pre-nerf occult. That will be so funny because you can see it coming. Like
Yeah.
we are due for a new mage Ami.
Yeah, I mean we're due for amulets and um, glove switches across the board technically. Except I mean I Zarite maybe not, but yeah, necklaces especially. Yeah, I think we are. Okay, Soul Reaper Axe. This I'm pretty excited about this one. Moving swiftly on, this hard-hitting slash weapon capable of dishing out some serious damage if you're willing to go through the frustrating process of bringing out its true potential. We don't plan to increase the Soul Reaper's damage directly. Here's what we'll be doing instead. Stacks will no longer be lost instantly upon switching weapon. Stacks will also start decrementing. Is that okay? After 20 ticks, 12 seconds without attacking. Up from 10 ticks, 6 seconds. So it's doubling the time before it starts decrementing. Is that even why does that not sound like even right? Maybe
Decrement?
decrementing. I don't know. It's such a weird.
I think it's
I would say,
decrementing.
oh, decrementing. Decrementing. Yeah.
Whatever.
It
You get the
makes
point.
sense. It's just I've never like said that word. It's weird. Okay. When stacks naturally degrade, they'll heal you for the damage you took while building those stacks up. So you probably haven't even used the Soul Reaper Axe, have you, Guppy?
Nope. And looking at it as it currently is, it's just like, why? Where would I use this thing
Yeah.
other than I guess people are using it at Vordorvis? It's best in slot there apparently, but
Yeah.
yeah, I've never, dude. I pulled up the wiki page for Soul Reaper Axe just looking at it because I don't know what the hell this thing actually does. I've never tried it.
So
I just know that it's kind of bad when you have a scythe.
this gets me very excited because these are the exact changes it needed. Personally, I wasn't even against them just doing a full on redo of everything about it. Like not even making it do the stack thing, just completely going back to the drawing board and deciding something else. But I think this fits really nicely because this basically solves all the annoying issues. The fact that you can switch weapons and you're not going to lose your stack, that's amazing. You have 20 ticks to keep hitting to keep your stacks. And if you don't hit in time, it will just heal you the 8 damage you took from hitting in the first place. So just as just kind of illustrating this because you haven't used it, and for those that haven't used it, like doing a Slayer task with a Soul Reaper axe, if you're just meleeing a task, I'm one of those weirdos, that goes around the game doing Konar Slayer meleeing tasks. But it's a really fun weapon to use for tasks because you're just whacking stuff with Slayer helmet and everything. And one of the most annoying things though is if you're trying to go AFK and trying to like auto retaliate your tasks and like using a cannon or something, was hitting stuff and then slowly just losing your stacks passively and not regaining that HP. So if you don't bring food or anything like I normally do, I'm just bringing prayer pots. Eventually, you're going to see yourself after several minutes at very low HP and not being able to regain your stack again because you've just slowly been losing your HP from losing stacks and not regaining that 8. So everything they're doing here looks phenomenal, and it's actually going to make this Soul Reaper Axe like worthwhile. So I'm really excited about it. So not much more to really say. I'll read this thing, and then if we have anything else to add beforehand. Effectively, we're making stacks easier to maintain and removing the overly punishing stack drain when switching weapons. This does indirectly buff the Soul Reaper's damage output, but it also means you'll no longer run out of stacks while waiting during intermission phases in some boss fights, such as Verzik's transition between phases 2 and 3. We've seen more suggestions regarding the Soul Reaper Axe, but right now our focus is on improving its usability and ensuring it doesn't lose power every time you switch gear. Perfect. Do you have any?
Looks good.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think it's
Hopefully it gets more use out of this. It's very difficult to obtain from scratch. This thing is a long grind to get, and it's a fulfilling grind too because you have to do 4 different bosses, each with their own little things you have to learn about
mm-hmm.
it. And you can't even like you have to build this thing with untradeable components.
Yep.
That's rough. It should be very, very good for how difficult it is to obtain. And yeah, well, really, there's not much else to say other than that. This thing should be used in a lot of places.
One of the really cool things I talked about this, you may have heard it on a cast or one of the rambles I was talking about it on, is kind of this niche utility of it where if you have a full 5 stack, you literally have you have an instant 40 heal potion basically as a spec. So in a dire situation, I was thinking of like killing Duke because you're now killing Duke. When you do the Awakened Duke fight, if you were to use the Soul Reaper axe, you can basically maintain this panic 40 heal button. So
Uh-huh.
you have like a shark and a Karambwan, you can panic eat 40 or 38 right there, but you can do a combination of like a shark, Karambwan, and a heal, and you're just back up to full fucking HP. Like if you really needed that, you have bring a Phoenix necklace as well. Like boom, like it's really in those dire situations, having a Soul Reaper axe as a handy insta 40 heal is really really useful, but it has um, very limited use cases for that, but it's still cool.
It's like you're clicking an ambrosia with a special
Literally,
attack.
like that's actually what it's not, what it is. I mean, especially in even if you didn't have any food, like imagine you just had a Phoenix necklace and this 40 stack heal. Like a Phoenix
All
necklace
right.
heals like 29 or something. You're healing like
All right.
79 HP, just
Okay.
boom.
Well, I want to know what the maximum amount you can heal is. It's like, what would it be? Angler into like antelope, tick. Brew, Karambwan, Soul Reaper Axe Spec, and the Phoenix Necklace proccing all at the same time. How much would
And a
that
Blood
heal?
Fury, and
And
you're
Blood
hitting,
Fury, dude. Oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
god. Holy moly.
So,
I want to see it. I want someone to make that a reality, please. I want to see someone go from 1 HP to like 115 or
dude, it would be
121
way higher than
instantly.
that. Yeah, yeah, you would just launch. I mean,
Oh my
if we ever
goodness,
get
that's
if
so funny.
one of these days we're gonna honestly one of the a cool mega rare reward doesn't even need to be mega rare, but in the future some sort of reward would be some HP boosting stuff. Didn't Torva used to do that back in the day?
I think not just Torva, but also Pernix and Virtus did the same thing.
Mm.
I think
Yeah,
it's been
I
so
think they
long.
did. I wasn't there for it, but that sounds right.
Uh,
I'm not against that.
it's interesting. I'm not gonna go against it. I'm kind of neutral opinion on that. It's an interesting concept. I know PvPers are gonna absolutely hate that.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, we're able to just I don't know if it would be the worst thing because people already have those kind of like honor fights anyway, where it's like, come on, dude, stop safing up so much. But you're right, in NHing, people will just eat up. But the thing is, we have weapons that are so powerful nowadays, and they're only going to get more powerful over time. So in the future, we also need to have that HP increase. I feel like inevitably. Anyway, let's continue on with Elder Maul. This is interesting.
The biggest change, by the way. This is the absolute biggest change in the whole blog.
Really? Let's see it.
Yes,
Okay.
read it.
This thunderous crush weapon is a mega rare drop from Chambers of Xeric, but its PVM use cases are few and far between, barring a brief moment in the sun when you all discovered the 1 to 0 method for taking down the Great Olm's melee hand. It's hard to bring a slow, hard-hitting weapon in line with other main hand weapons or options. Because our combat system rewards speed, 5-tick weapons like the Scythe of Viter and the Twisted Bow do a fantastic job, but an even slower 6-tick weapon requires a max hit that would level half of Varrock. What makes the Elder Maul great is that feeling of bringing this behemoth weapon down on an opponent and softening them up for future blows while they're still reeling from the impact. Initially, we thought about shaving off a little defense for each swing, but struggled to get it into a place where it wasn't either totally broken or outperformed by the Dragon Warhammer. Instead, we're giving it a special attack worth 50% of special attack energy, which reduces your target's defense by 35%. This makes it a better defense reduction option than the Dragon Warhammer, and also frees up an inventory slot for scenarios where you'd otherwise use two-handed weapons. For example, if you'd only be using the Scythe of Viter and the Dragon Warhammer in a raid, you'll be able to skip out on an Avernic Defender and bring something else in that extra slot. Given the prevalence of defense reduction in many endgame encounters, we feel like this should give you more reason to bring the Elder Maul out of the bank every once in a while. Do let us know what you think if it could use a little something more. What are your thoughts?
It's better than the Dragon Warhammer in every way. It's
Yep.
35% instead of 30. It's two-handed. Do you have any idea how sick it is to do
Wait, wait,
TOB
wait,
and
wait, wait,
not
wait, wait.
have any like
I,
defender?
I need to say one thing though. Is it better? Because the Dragon Warhammer, doesn't the spec also have a 50% accuracy increase? Is
No,
that
it does not.
it doesn't?
It has 50% damage. That's it. No accuracy.
Oh, I
So
thought
the
it had
Elder Maul is
accuracy.
more accurate and it's draining more. It is a strict
Wow.
upgrade. And
Wow.
you don't have to bring a Vernic. Do you have any idea how sick it is to not just the little quality of life to
Yep.
not have to drop an anglerfish right before
It's
maiden
amazing. No, it's
to
amazing.
say, dude, it's so good. That
It's
alone
amazing.
is worth 100 mil in my eyes. Just not having to. That's why I like to bring BGS into top because then I could just skip bringing a Vernic and just bring only two-handed stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's
This is incredible. Although I do wish that just like hitting things with the Elder Maul was a bit better, but
I actually
this
have a
this
point.
change by itself is going to make it crazy good.
Actually have a point on that on the next section, which is Inquisitors, because I was thinking that there's a reason why. Well, we'll talk about it in a second, but I think it could be cool if Inquisitors could use the Elder Maul as the 7.5% damage as well. You're never going to use it anyway, so it's not like it's going to make that big of a difference. But you know, it could be pretty cool to have that effect with full Inquisitors and an Elder Maul. But we'll talk about that. So I'm cool with this. I really like this. I think it's cool that the Dragon Warhammer is like the little brother of it now. And
Which is good because you're comparing a raid reward from like a very, very, very historically shitty grind of just killing shamans over and over again on
yep,
an iron for a
yep,
necessary item.
yeah. No, I think this is really nice.
You can
Um,
skip the Warhammer grind on an iron now. You get BGS from Bandos, use that for chambers, and then you get well, you hope for the Elder Maul. It is very rare, but anyway, yeah, it completely invalidates the Dragon Warhammer. Just use an Elder Maul.
yep.
It's better in every way.
Oh,
There's no longer a reason to use the Warhammer
dude.
unless you think it's more accessible.
Yeah, this is going to be huge, and it's going to be really amazing against just anything. Because I'm even thinking like, well, I don't know what you're supposed to be using at Duke. Like, if you're just grinding out Duke long term, not trying to get up a PB or anything, would you bring? I'm pretty sure you'd bring an Elder Maul at this point, unless BGS is
You shouldn't
slashes.
even think. I don't even think you should be thinking about where you would use Elder Maul, and just think that it just replaces the Warhammer everywhere. Because really, this 5% extra defense reduction compared to Hammer is not that substantial, and the accuracy difference from a Dragon Warhammer and an Avernic is also not that substantial. Just see it as just it's better than the Warhammer
Okay.
now. You don't even have to think about where it's good. We already know that the Dragon Warhammer is ubiquitous and where it's getting used already.
Yep.
It's a very, very healthy item. So yeah, don't even think about like Duke or like maybe the small is going to start beating
Mm-hmm.
BGS where BGS is already being used. It maybe there's like one spot where this mall will be just minusculely better than a BGS on average after someone does 1,000 calculations on and simulations. Just see this as a better Warhammer. That's all you really need to see.
All right, let's read this section on Inquisitor's armor. The Inquisitor's armor set and mace are a crush focus set dropped by the Nightmare and Fasani's Nightmare. Each piece of the armor set boosts your damage and accuracy by 0.5% when equipped, with an additional 1% for the full set, totaling a plus 2.5% increase in both damage and accuracy. You generally see people using the set with a Scythe of Viter against enemies weak to crush, trading off low defense for hefty damage output. But where's the mace? While the mace is a strong weapon, it's staggeringly expensive at more than 275 million GP, and its damage output simply doesn't make up for the cost. You'll hear later about how we plan to adjust Nightmare drop rates to make her uniques more obtainable, but for now, here's how we're giving the mace some extra juice. While using the Inquisitor's mace, damage and accuracy bonuses from the Inquisitor's armor, including the set effect bonus, is tripled. In a full set with the mace, the bonuses increase from plus 2.5% to plus 7.5% total damage and accuracy. This change should make the mace feel like a worthwhile stepping stone between the Abyssal Bludgeon and the Scythe of Viter, adding more utility to a rarely seen set. What are your thoughts?
This is wrong. This is the most wrong change. I can't believe they're even considering buffing the mace when it's already very good, and it's the best. It's the best item from Nightmare right now, arguably. Maybe people will say Eldritch is better, but the mace is good, dude. Like people use the mace a lot. I bought the mace on my alt, and I've been doing combat achievements and finding myself using mace in a lot of places. I've been using it for a lot of chambers. Like, dude, you're trying to buff Inquisitor armor. You're not trying to buff the mace. Like, while this does indirectly buff the Inquisitor armor, just make the set bonus triple just by default. Why do you need a mace for this? Make it
So,
so you can use full Inquisitor with the bludgeon and all of the other crush weapons. Like, just make the set bonus better.
so here's
That's it.
I agree with that, except for one caveat, which is the scythe getting that treatment as well. Because as soon as the scythe on crush is now getting a 7.5% boost with full inquisitors, the scythe is going to be fucking wild, and it's not going to bridge that gap between the mace and the scythe, which is what a lot of people want. So,
What are you worried about the scythe being used on Crush for?
like anything basically. I mean,
So where would you use Crush right now? It's like Nightmare, obviously, Cerberus, Tecton. Is there any more?
um, well, the thing is, like Tecton right now, you're using a scythe.
No,
already.
you're already using a scythe.
Cerberus, you're using a scythe. Fasani's Nightmare, you're using a scythe. And when you buff this, it's like no matter what, like in my opinion, I think it would be a healthy thing to let scythe dominate more as a slash weapon. And it already dominates as a crush weapon because of Inquisitor. So maybe there could be some sort of change where, because I would love it if, I'm totally with you, by the way, where the set bonus should just be 7.5% with all crush weapons minus the scythe. And so somehow, I'm just thinking somehow the scythe can't be in this. It almost has to be like excluding scythe. And the reason I say that is because the scythe is just going to go absolutely wild with a 7.5% increase because it's just, I don't know. Like, I just think it's too OP for the scythe to get that treatment as well. But I don't think it's enough to just have the mace have the treatment because it would be really cool to, be able to use an Elder Maul or a bludgeon or a zombie axe or whatever with the full ink and get that same 7.5%. So I don't know. I don't have an idea on the top of my head right now of how to exclude the scythe from that, but I think it is important to exclude the scythe from that. Almost like maybe that 7.5% only gets applied if the main or if the highest attack bonuses from that weapon are crush based. So because the scythe has a higher slash bonus than crush, it's not going to get applied. But any weapon that's primarily used for crush gets that bonus. I know that sounds a bit convoluted, but I think that would be the way to go about it. So,
I don't mind. I don't mind the ink armor being and the scythe being buffed. This is where we just have the same differing opinion. And I talked about this earlier, where
mhm.
you, yeah, you like to have things be kind of like competing all against each other, even when it comes to the scythe and the mace competing against each
Well, it's
other.
only because the scythe is literally supposed to be a slash weapon. Like, and I understand that's exactly proving your point, but I do think it's important for there to be some competing things, um, some competing weapons that are competing with the scythe. Like, I just think that's important for health. So I know
You
I'm
you see you see the scythe competing against the mace, and then I can't help but think about the scythe competing with the Tebow and the Shadow, and there being this linearity between raids 1, raids 2, raids 3, where they each have a style weapon, and then the scythe is definitely the weaker of the three by comparison. So I don't mind the scythe being like giga strong even on the crush style. If it really bothered you that much, maybe the crush option on the scythe should just be deleted.
that's what I
I think
think.
that's
Yeah, I
probably
think
the best thing for the game,
I,
really.
I
Uh,
it doesn't even make sense for it to have crush, but we're already so used to it. But yeah, that would
yeah,
be
that's the
amazing to
thing.
just get rid of
But
that.
I don't mind the crush style. I think the scythe actually needs more love, and I'm glad that they buffed it recently. I just think the scythe should maintain its value and be giga strong, mega rare from arguably what I would say is the best raid. I think TOB is the best. It's also the most difficult. Well, maybe not more difficult than like uh 500s
600,
or
600,
600s
yeah.
TOA, but yeah, that's like a different topic entirely. But yeah, we just have different opinions on this, and I don't think either of us are going to really change where
No,
we
I mean
see mega
I'm
enrichment raids
willing.
in different ways.
I mean I'm willing to concede certain points. The thing is like I just don't want. It's just the same thing with Scythe or with Tebow. Like if Tebow was the go-to ranged weapon for everything, it would just be so dumb. Like what the fuck? Like why are we? Like we need some sort. We need a blowpipe. We need some sort of other weapons that can fill other niches. And I just think the scythe being overly dominant every single place just because it's a mega rare is just stupid. I also think the shadow was way too overtuned, personally. And it could have been a bazooka like it currently is, but have some sort of potential downside where if something, I don't know. I'm not going to go into this whole thing, but the shadow was way too OP because you literally are trolling now if you're not using a shadow.
Every time I put the shadow in a DPS calculator, it just says, yes, use this.
Yes.
It doesn't matter where. Like,
It's
I was using it
ridiculous.
to see if it was better than Tebow on stuff like Mystics and Shamans. And every time I put it in, I just see 85, 90, 95% mage accuracy,
Yeah.
max attack roll of like 100K, just
It's
crazy
just
high
it's
accuracy.
wild. It's
Dude, it's busted. Like, people are using Okay, you know what's liberating is going into vanguards in a regular like solo chambers, and you just kill them all with shadow. All you do. You just,
wild.
oh, this one's the lowest. I click this one.
Yep.
It's just like
It's
holy
just
moly, dude.
so fucking accurate. So
It
fucking
is
accurate.
very unbalanced, but it is very satisfying to use. It is very, very
Yeah.
satisfying. Way more satisfying than any other mage weapon. Before, if I splash twice in a row on the mage claw at home, I'll just be upset. Or rather, I won't be upset, but I'll just be like, okay, wow,
Hmm.
that happens every so often or whatever. If I splash twice in a row with shadow at home, I'm like, dude, I'm so unlucky. I hit the negative lottery on these hits. I'm so upset. Uh, yeah, it really goes to show how accurate the shadow is. That thing just does not splash.
It really doesn't. It's crazy. Um, yeah, so there's more to talk about because there's going to be some minimum hit thing we're going to talk about, which I do have a problem with how they've addressed it, but we'll cover that in a second. Void Waker. Okay, have you used the Void Waker? Because you haven't played
I'm
in
using it all over the place. Yeah, for sure.
so much
It's
fun.
very satisfying. Just always hitting.
Okay, when we first said this crazily consistent special attack weapon was on the table for Project Rebalance, we said we wanted to tweak it because completely bypassing accuracy checks in combat could become a limiter for future spec DPS weapons. So, although we're still presenting our proposed changes today, we're aware that this is something many of you have spoken out against and will continue to bear your feedback in mind. Our proposal looks like this: adjust the Void Waker special attack so that it no longer ignores accuracy, but instead rolls with plus 200% increased accuracy and rolls against your target's slash or magic defense, depending on which is lower. So I think this is a good. Well, here, let me just finish up and then we'll talk. This means the special attack still rolls with triple accuracy and picks the lowest of two values, so you always have the best odds of hitting. It fits nicely with the Void Waker's melee but magic identity. It also keeps it an incredibly consistent choice in both PvM and PvP scenarios without being so consistent that it bypasses one of our main balancing levers. We're especially keen for your thoughts on this one, so get in touch with us and let us know. Personally, I'm going to share my thoughts first. I think this is great. I think it is important for things to not have an absolute 100% guarantee. In some situations, I do think it's warranted, but here, I think it's okay for it to just be like claws, where like you're almost certain it's going to hit, but you're not absolutely getting that full guarantee. Um, I remain slightly indifferent, but I actually like that they're going down this road because with monsters that really should be immune to like a certain style and having a Void Waker bypass anything you ever do in the future to like future bosses, I think it is a bit weird. So that's my personal take. What are your thoughts? But it's still going to be hitting basically guaranteed, and it's going to still hit the 50 to 150%
It's a pretty
damage.
substantial nerf for Nex. This is a very substantial nerf for Nex.
Mm,
Void Waker is going to splash on Nex a lot. Uh,
really, even with 300%.
Well, because Nex is like indestructible to mage basically, and also slash because it's weak to stab, and Nex's defenses are just super high in general.
I see.
This is a huge nerf against Nex. I haven't done any calcs, but I can imagine that you're going to hit so many zeros if you try to use Void Waker at Nex now that you're just going to Fang spec now probably maybe.
Nah, no way. No way. You would never Fang spec in the first place. I feel like you would just ZCB spec at that point.
But yeah, well, true. You would definitely use ZCB over Fang spec for sure, but yeah, it's a pretty big nerf. I thought the whole reason people used Void Waker over Claws was just because it always hit. So if you take that away, then it's like, why wouldn't you just use Claws everywhere?
Yeah.
But I'm sure there'll still be places where Void Waker is better.
Yeah. No. And I guess really I just want to make it a bit more clear. I am indifferent on this. So if they were to revert this change, they said they're still going to keep our feedback in mind. If they were to fully revert this and just keep it guaranteed, I'm not going to have that big of a problem with it. at all. In fact, I'd just be totally fine because I feel like this change that they're making is basically already going to make the Void Waker feel the same.
For the most part, at a lot of places, yeah, I
Yeah,
would say so. It's still 200% accuracy is just crazy.
yeah. We'll see. And it's going off of its lowest stat, so whatever's the lowest. So I don't know. It's whatever. I'm curious what people have to say in the comments, but let's continue. Ancient God Sword. The Zerosian spin on this classic melee weapon is designed from the ground up for PvP, although it does see use in PvM, especially against slash weak monsters where long trips are preferred. It's all about outlasting your opponent, while still packing a punch. Excuse me. Its special attack, Blood Sacrifice, increases your max hit by 10%, and upon a successful hit, marks your target. If they don't move at least 5 tiles away after 8 ticks, 4.8 seconds, they'll take 25 magic damage, and you'll heal for the same amount of HP. If your PvP opponent is frozen and you hit them, for even a measly 1 damage, you'll ultimately wind up with a 50 HP differential. The damage isn't mitigated by Protect from melee or magic, so there's actually very little your opponent can do about it. Is that fun? To even the odds, we want to reduce the healing provided in PvP without reducing the God Sword's already limited utility in PvM scenarios. Healing from successful Blood Sacrifice now heals for 15% of the target's maximum HP up to a 25 HP cap. So basically across the board for basically 99% of PvM situations, this remains completely unchanged because you're still going to heal for that 25 damage because basically everything you're killing is going to have more than 150 HP. And this still leads to a 40 HP differential in PvP, but stops fights stretching out without counterplay, even when your opponent is playing perfectly. The Ancient God Sword is basically unchanged in PvM, except in the rare case of fighting low HP targets, and it isn't really designed for such encounters anyway. Again, we'd really like to hear your feedback about this change. We're not committed to it, and if the Ancient God Sword's role in today's meta has changed, we're more than willing to leave it alone. So this seems very much just PvP focused, and I'm okay with what they're proposing.
No comment. Next.
Yeah, it's whatever. Other combat adjacent changes. The rest of the changes focused on other aspects of PvM combat, such as drop rates. So Dragon Warhammer mentioned all irons to battle stations. This quintessential grind item is a staple for those taking their first foray into PvM. Unfortunately, it's not that common. Lizardman Shamans aren't hard to kill, so the whole hours-long adventure can also be quite boring, which is why we're making the following change. Boost the Dragon Warhammer's drop rate from 1 in 5,000 to 1 in 3,000. This is effectively an 80% increased drop rate, which we feel is better suited to a mid-game upgrade required to chase more challenging uniques. Now, we don't often adjust drop rates, and we don't plan to make it a habit, but for the Warhammer and a few other persistent offenders, we're making an exception. What do you think?
I would go further and make it 1 in 1K.
I
Like
mean,
make this thing way more common.
yeah,
This grind is stupid. This is the one of the worst parts of the game right now. This shouldn't exist. This should be 1 in 1,000, like at most. 1 in 5K was egregious.
yeah, it was. But I like that they're not completely going crazy on this. I think in my opinion, I think 1 in 2,500 is the perfect sweet spot. Just completely slashing it in half or doubling it, I guess. I think that would be enough. And I think 1 in 1,000 is just a bit too far, just personally, just my taste. But 1 in 2,500. So 1 in 3,000 is very close to that, and I think that's completely fine. Yeah, I'm pretty much just like whatever.
I thought about maybe it'd be a good idea to make it 1 in 1K on task, and then I realized, I don't really like those
I
on
hate those.
task drop rate changes.
Me too. I hate those. It always
Basilisks,
sounds like
like get rid of
cool.
that.
Yeah, it sounds kind of cool in theory, and then you're like, bro, you're already getting a buff by being on task. Like,
Yeah,
you're doing
exactly.
more damage. Like, why were you gonna just? It just feels like a severe punishment now to try to grind the item off task. That's what it feels like. So I hate that kind of
So
stuff.
Yeah, this is a good change. 1 in 3K, much better. I would like to see it 1 in 1K,
Hmm.
but that's just me. Especially now that it's not even going to be the best in slot defense reduction because Elder Maul will be better now.
Yep.
So making it more accessible is huge. I think this would be an awesome iron grind if it was 1 in 1K. You'd see people killing shamans before going to corrupted gauntlet, maybe like
You,
killing them with like rag gear
you know
instead of
what?
a bofa.
You know, would be really cool is if
Let's hear it.
the if you could also get a Dragon Warhammer from within side chambers killing shamans. Just do
You know
that.
what? I'm surprised it's not like
I
that.
know it's
But
stupid.
it would be like balance wise, it would completely delete any purpose of killing shamans on a main because the Warhammer would be so cheap if it came from chambers just randomly. You know what?
Not
Maybe make
really.
it just like a one and
There's only
maybe
ever like two shamans in a solo, so it's like you'd still have to do like 1,500 fucking raids to pull a
it's
hammer.
true, but they would leak into the game
But
in a
they're not
way
even
that
important now because the Elder Maul's more important.
yeah, the price of the thing would plummet big time. But
Mm.
maybe make it a 1 in 32768 from shamans and inside raids. That would be interesting, but just as like a meme drop in the sense that like the Onyx from Tecton is a meme drop. It's very rare.
I don't even think it's. I literally think it could be the same drop rate because the shamans inside the raid are always way harder anyway. Like they
Yeah,
just
but you're
take way
not
longer.
killing them for the hammer by any means. You're killing it for the other uniques.
But how cool would it be to get an Onyx from Tecton, you're in the raid, and then get a Warhammer, and then get a fucking purple chest? Like how cool that would be.
Also,
Yeah.
think of it this way, where people are going to suddenly start scouting for raids that only have shamans because of the Warhammer drop.
But no, 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 no. They won't be doing that. Like in and
They
the
would.
supply and demand will equal out. So at eventually at some point it's just gonna be like whatever. Cause I mean the other thing is like who the hell is scouting for like, oh, I want Tecton for that rare chance of an Onyx? Like
Okay, Onyx is a lot different than the Dragon Warhammer.
I just
Like,
think
it's a
I
pretty big
think
difference.
I think doing I think this will just be an overall exciting, a slightly exciting thing to add to Chambers because it's going to be such a rare thing. You maybe see one Warhammer in 1,500 fucking raids of yours. And again, this is assuming solos. If you're doing groups, maybe there's 4 shamans in the room. And then the coolest thing is like whoever did the most damage to that shaman that drops the Warhammer gets the Warhammer, and it's fucking exciting. It's like holy shit, you know. I think it's just overall just fun, and I don't think the market's gonna even see that big of a difference anyway. I think it's totally fine, personally.
Okay.
My personal take. Anyway, we'll continue. The Nightmare and Fasani's Nightmare. These bosses are tough and their uniques do the heavy lifting in terms of rewards. However, these uniques are so rare that players don't feel either variant of this beastly boss is worth, or don't feel either variant of this beastly boss worth their time, is worth their time or their supplies. To add to this issue, the Nightmare's uniques are mostly niche or underpowered, which doesn't exactly justify their rarity. We've already spoken about making changes to the Inquisitor's Mace, and we feel adjusting the drop rates for uniques will provide the other half of the equation. Here's the specifics. So I'm not even going to touch the Nightmare. We're just going to cover Fasani's because nobody's touching Nightmare. Fasani's Nightmare is Inquisitor's Pieces plus Nightmare Staff loot table has a 1 in 150 chance to roll improved from 1 in 200. Fasani's Nightmare Orb loot table has a 1 in 720 chance to roll improved from 1 in 960. In short, all Nightmare uniques are made 50% more common. We're conscious that this change may affect the GE value of these items, although some may actually receive a boost due to their project rebalance changes. We feel that these changes are important enough to go ahead regardless. However, if you got thoughts about either of the drop rate changes we've spoken about today, we'd love to hear them. Thoughts?
Nightmare has been such a mess since its inception. What a okay, the art design of Nightmare and the area where you fight the Nightmare, all of that is really cool. The boss mechanics are really cool. They dropped the ball so hard on the rewards from this thing. Good lord. The harmonized orb meant to be like the best mage weapon in the game, and then it's just like the next update they release thralls, and then all of a sudden you can no longer use mage on normal spellbook, and then dude, it's been such a
It's a
mess,
mess.
and it sucks that it's taken them this long to make significant drop rate changes because they were needed big time.
No, the thing is, they have made significant drop rate changes from the inception of it until now.
Yeah, but it wasn't enough. It was not
Dude,
nearly enough.
it's so it is still not enough, in my
I
opinion. I
agree.
want to touch on
Yes, it,
this.
it
Like
should be way better, like
literally,
double the drop rate or even more than that.
yeah. Literally in my head, I'm thinking we're making these changes. Jagex in the back of their mind. First of all, this is going to upset most players that have been grinding Nightmare. I don't give a
Oh,
fuck.
100%.
I've basically are
100%. I don't care either.
yeah, I've basically I've done 1200 hours of Nightmare, and I do not care if the place gets completely buffed so egregiously that I lose, 900 hours. I don't even care. Like, just fucking make the place better. I don't care. So I am in that boat with anybody else that's going to get butthurt over this getting a change, and people that have been grinding. Literally, this is not a big enough change because we're going to see another year down the line, another 2 years down the line, even a fucking week down the line from this. I mean, I'm already, before this update's even implemented, I'm already butthurt. This isn't enough. Like, it literally is not enough. We need to make a serious pivot and just say legitimately double, or if not more. I would even say, so right now, getting a drop from Nightmare is a 1 in 167 to get a fucking item there. You have to kill 167 Fasanis. If you go 4 times the rate, you're literally looking at like 700 Fasanis just to see something. So literally make that 1 in 50. Like, literally make it 1 in 50. Like, just straight up triple the drop rate. And that
For reference,
yeah.
Nex is 1 in 43.
Yeah.
That's a
So,
that's a number that you should probably consider a lot when looking at Nightmare, which is basically like when they released it, it was budget Nex, and
mhm.
now we have actual Nex in the game. So, yeah, drop rates should be significantly better. I would
Or
make a Mace 1 in 512 from regular
yeah.
Nightmare, like just flat 1 in 512. Inquisitor pieces 1 in 128. Just simple
Or
numbers like that. Like,
they could even do something like make it so the drops are 1 in 80. Actually, make it still 1 in 50, but make it so that the orbs are dramatically increased in drop rates. Like
the orbs
those
need to be increased dramatically. Yeah,
dramatic.
100%.
So the armor can be slightly more, but then the orbs dramatically increase in the drop rate. I'm sorry, just like fucking A, dude. The fact that with this change, it's still going to be 1 in 720 to see one orb. Dude,
That's bad. That
listen,
is so bad.
it's so bad because it's still 1 in like 2160 to get a specific orb. If you go 4 times the rate, you're looking at over 8,000 Fasani's Night to get your specific orb. That is nightmare fuel. And
Oh,
that's with these buffs.
oh,
And
oh
there are people that
man.
go 8 times rate. Can you imagine killing 16,000 Fasanis for one specific thing?
This is this is a boss that you should only be doing like 100, 200 hours to get everything.
It's ridiculous. They need to go so much further than this. I'm sorry. They need to go so much further. Like
Yeah,
literally
100% agree.
they could, even if okay, so I'm going to be the most conservative right now. Let's just say they keep what they've decided with the 1 in 150 chance to get the Inquisitors. At least with the orbs, make that also a 1 in 150 chance then, or something like that. So it all equals out to about a 1 in 100 for a drop, basically, or whatever that would kind of equal out to. But make the orbs actually feel like you're getting orbs, because especially now with the elemental weaknesses, harmonized orb should be a thing you could actually get without just being like, oh well, this is basically third age at this point. Like seriously, the
All
harmonized
right,
orb
what do you
should
think about
go.
orb loot table 1 in 100
Yeah,
from Fasani?
I'm literally down for all of it to be like basically 1 in 100. I mean, just
1 in 100 orb table, 1 in 100 ink pieces,
nah.
one
But
in 500 for Mace.
maybe that's too much because if it's all 1 in 100, then that shit's gonna be like a 1 in fucking like 20 drop or something for
Well,
an
no,
item.
I mean, like an individual ink piece would be 1 in 300. Like ink helm 1 in 300. The all the ink pieces and the orbs that have the same drop rate, so 1 in 300 for all of those, and then the mace would be 1 in 500, so a little bit more
So
rare, and
how
then the
many
nightmare
items?
staff would be like 1 in 50.
Let me just look at the. I'm just gonna pull up my collection log real quick and just look at nightmare. So there's
Actually, I take that back. Maybe the nightmare staff rarity is fine because it is pretty good. It's 15% mage damage. Maybe keep it like
okay here.
not as rare, but like reduce it, but not by a whole lot.
Here's what I would say. So there's 8 items that you're getting. There's full ink, mace, staff, and 3 orbs. So honestly, they could just make everything roughly the same rate. They don't need to go exactly that, but just completely simplifying this. If they were to make everything like, I'm just trying to think. Yeah, this I don't know. Not I don't even think it's worth trying to
One in
pick this.
50 for anything, or like one in
I would love that.
30 for anything.
I would love it if it was basically so it would basically be the equivalent of like everything's a 1 in 400 pretty much. But they don't need to do that. They would have to make some sort of minor adjustments to make the staff slightly more common because you do want to
Yeah,
get those. So, but something around that where like nothing is really above the like 500 thing. Nothing
yep,
specifically
agreed,
is above like 500.
agreed.
Yeah. So something like that. I could go into more detail in a future ramble where I actually write things down, but literally it does not need to be that crazy. Like we haven't made, oh, also I need to touch on the Jar of Dreams. Dude, the Jar of Dreams is 1 in 4. Okay. Listen to this. It's 1 in 4,000. So imagine a guy that goes 10x rate of a Jar of Dreams, 40,000 Fasani's Nightmare to get
Yeah,
one
you can
collection log.
tell. Okay, first of all, okay,
Yeah,
10x is a
yeah,
lot. Like,
it is, but it
dude,
happens. It happens.
to like the one unfortunate dude who's just cursed.
Yeah,
But
no, but that
for the
literally
majority
will
of
happen.
people, they're not going to go 10x dry. Like, there's no
Well, they're
shot.
just never gonna
But
get it.
it's
Yeah.
possible, yeah. But yeah,
Let's just okay. Even 2x,
yeah.
8,000
Yes,
nightmare.
it's absurd. Yes, it's completely absurd.
2x is always that's so common.
Oh, and I want to also mention because you just when you first mentioned Nightmare and Fasani's Nightmare, you're like, okay, let's just skip over the regular Nightmare. But I think that's a little unfair. I think if you're five-manning Nightmare, you should be getting items pretty often. Maybe
Oh
like
yeah,
it
no,
should be
no,
like really comparable to Fasani's if you're doing like
dude,
sweaty five-mans.
I'm
Like incentivize people to get together for a group boss for crying out
dude.
loud.
Have you killed normal nightmare though? I don't think you remember how much of a shit show that thing is. Like they didn't even make
Where
the
killed my Iron Man? I did 1,500 solos. Yeah,
so.
not good.
I know I
And you
did
know what? I never got
3,000.
Mace. I
Yeah,
never got the Mace.
I did 3,000. Never got a
Unlucky.
mace
F
either.
in the chat for the Iron Man Bcguppy. He's gone
Fucking
in the
just
bin.
so triggering doing that content. Listen, they could make some amazing changes to normal nightmare, but honestly, this is my thoughts on it. Why not? This might come out as kind of harsh, but seriously, why not just entirely remove normal nightmare and put Fasani's in the middle of that arena where original nightmare is? So just entirely remove that like extra
Oh,
pool,
and then
that
you could
extra
do it
run,
as a team if you wanted
and then
to.
you could do it as a team. Yes, up to
Oh,
5
I like
people.
that. I
You can
like
go
that a
into
lot.
Fasani's. It's the same scaling and everything, so you're just annihilating this thing, and it's the same drop rates across the board, but you can do it with teams. So you're still better off doing it solo simply because of respawn times and other things, but you can still go in there with teammates and have a good time if you wanted. Honestly, like why not just
You should have the
yeah,
ability to go in with a team and have a good time. Because
yeah.
right now you're trolling if you're trying to do Nightmare for anything other than CAs or
And
like
just
yeah,
don't
it's
touch the scaling though, because as soon as Jagex starts messing with scaling, it fucks everything up, and it just makes it so soloing still way better. Like, just
yeah.
don't touch anything with the scaling. Make it so you go in there, just annihilate this thing with a team if you wanted to, and have a way better
Like
time.
Nexus. Exactly like Nexus.
Yes, exactly. But
Where there's no scaling other than maybe like if you want to consider like the soul split part of Nex, where it's healing like a
Yeah.
quarter of its life every tick because it's hitting 100 people.
Nex is kind of annoying with the null damage. I'm not even going to go into this conversation actually because I just realized there's other problems with Nex,
Yeah,
but you're right.
yeah,
The
I
scaling is
agree.
an issue though.
And I shouldn't be going to Next to like
Say
talk
this is
about what
yeah,
good
this
content is, but
golden
make
dust.
Nightmare more like Next in the good ways, I suppose, is what I should be saying.
You're right.
Nightmare should not scale with HP at all. If you bring in more than five, it
It
should
shouldn't.
not. It should
It
have the
shouldn't.
same HP, same drop rates, everything. Like, just don't even scale it. What's the point?
Yep. Okay, yeah, so they need to make some massive changes to this still. It's not good enough. I'm sorry. And the orbs need to be significantly buffed, if nothing else. Okay. Minimum hit adjustments. I already have a problem with this, and we'll talk about it after I read this. For those of you not in the know, old school's combat works a bit like Dungeons and Dragons. You roll once to hit, and then roll again to see how much damage you do. In the current system, it's possible to hit and then roll 0 damage. This is especially punishing early in the game where players have a lower max hit overall. If a low level player can only hit 1 damage, there's a 50-50 chance that they'll deal 0 damage instead. Even in late game, when players are significantly more powerful, the potential to roll 0 is always looming, and anyone who's ever whiffed a Dragon Warhammer special attack knows exactly how frustrating it can be. Previously, we proposed that any successful hit should guarantee at least 1 damage, but we still feel there are further changes required. The thing is, increasing either the minimum or maximum hit by X will increase the average hit by X divided by 2. We're actually increasing the damage output of every single weapon in the game, and this change would be disproportionately impactful for multi-hit weapons like the Scythe of Viter. As a result, our changes are focused on improving the feel of early combat, improving the readability of combat in late game scenarios. On hit, damage rolls between 1 and current max hit -1. For example, if your max hit is 58, your damage rolls between 1 and 57. This leaves DPS unchanged aside from the extremely early stages of the game, which should feel much better. We're also conscious that some account builds may be disproportionately impacted by this change. In response, we're looking to introduce items, especially for these players, which will let them continue on as they always have. So first of all, just get rid of that shit. Get rid of the lower 1 max hit to add the 1. Just who cares if the Scythe gets buffed a little bit from this? I think any multi-hitting weapon that's not even that big of a change to just guarantee
Yep.
if it passes. So get rid of all that. Just make it so you can no longer hit 0s if you hit the accuracy roll. Everything gets a very, very slight buff. Scythe gets disproportionately slightly buffed, but it's just so fucking insignificant. It's like, who cares? And anything that's hitting twice now, like those new moon weapons, also get that same treatment. I don't know how those actually work exactly. So I don't know if it's like you hit and then it just divides it already. I don't know actually. No, but
Do you want to know what is absolutely sacrilege that they are trying to do here? They are making it so that Fire Strike can no longer hit eights. No more eights. Fire Strike hits sevens. Do you have any
yeah,
idea
that's
how
so
bad
stupid.
that is?
That's so stupid.
That is
No,
like
this
you've
whole yeah,
broken a law there. You
yeah,
you got to go to prison for a change like that. That is
yeah.
so
This is
wrong.
it's so dumb.
That is bad. Reducing max hit by 1. You want to know the real solution to this is to kind of clamp off the way stats affect your DPS or your stats or whatever. So right now it scales linearly from level 1 to level 99, where it have you do you know how damage is actually calculated, where it takes your level and then adds 8 to your
No.
level to get like something to multiply with your strength bonus? Well, anyway, so I'll just briefly summarize how the DPS in this game works. So it takes your level and multiplies it by your gear, roughly speaking. So when it calculates your level, what it does is it takes the level that you're currently at. So like let's say you're at 120 overloaded. Okay, so 120, and then it multiplies your level by your prayers. So in the case of piety, it's 23%. So it would boost your effective level from one what is it 120 to 150. But then what it does at the very end is it adds stance bonuses, and it also adds a flat +8 to your level. So what this means is if you're on the aggressive style, you'll get 3 levels if you're using strength, for example. If you're on accurate, you don't get any strength levels, but you do get +3 in your attack level. And this isn't multiplied by prayers or anything. So see this as your effective level being 153 if you're on aggressive and like overloaded with piety on and stuff like that. And then it adds the +8 on the end. And NPCs get this +8 as well.
Mm.
So you go from 153 to 161, I think it is. That's your effective level, is what's happening here. So if you're not boosted at all, like let's say you're level 1 and you're on aggressive stance and that's it. No potions, no prayers, nothing. So what it does is it takes your level of 1, it adds 8, or sorry, first it adds the +3 from you kicking. Like let's say you're not wearing anything. Your level goes from 1, it gets added 3, so it's 4, and then it adds 8, and it's 12. So your effective level at level 1 kicking is level 12.
Mm-hmm.
So what they could do to kind of like ease the gap in between level 1 and level 99 is to simply make that +8 on the end, make it a lot larger. So make it like +30 or 40. So then that way the absolute like minimum level that you would have at level 1 would be like, it would be like 50 or 40 or 50 or something like that, where like you can hit tens at level 1, and then that scales linearly. And then if you were to just add +30 or +40 to the number, like the +8 that happens right now, you would be seeing like way higher max hits at 99. I'm not saying to increase those max hits. You would have to like scale the way DPS is calculated in a way where it's
But
at the absolute highest ends, it's reducing it, but
why would you?
increasing it at the lower ends.
But why would you want to be hitting tens at level 1?
It's to make early game combat feel way better. Like you spawn off of Tutorial Island, you get like geared from the combat tutor, and then like maybe not tens. Tens is a bit high, but
I
you
just
should be
feel
hitting like up to fives, because right now, if you were using Fire Strike at level 13 mage, you're hitting eights,
yeah.
and nothing can really hit that high for melee range because of the way those styles work. So if you were able to hit eights at level 13 strength, I think that would be a lot more reasonable than the current like threes and
I see.
fours that you can hit at most.
So it's just the balancing of the like those early strike spells. Personally, I don't think it's necessary, mainly because there is some like give and take. Like magic in the very, very early is super OP, and then range slowly gets that nice buff over time because you're just rapidly hitting every 3 ticks and you're hitting like fives very quickly. And they all have like actual increases, whereas magic damage increases are so few and far between. You need like actual like mage gear, like equipment. And then with swords, I mean, yeah, you're hitting ones and stuff, but that quickly, especially now with this change, if they do it properly and stop with the fucking bullshit of reducing your max hit by 1, you're going to quickly get a new weapon that's like a rune scimitar, and now you're just annihilating stuff 4 ticks and you're
Oh, I'm
but
going to interrupt you here because
yeah,
starting combat training at level 1 where you're like hitting goblins
but you're
at
hitting
level
all
1,
ones now though.
it's incredibly slow. Well, it's also reducing your max hit, so ultimately your DPS isn't really changing.
No, no,
It's just made to be like a feel kind of
no,
thing,
but
kind of
that's
change.
why I'm under the assumption they scrap that bullshit that they just said, where they're reducing one of your max hits. That's the stupidest thing
Oh,
ever.
that would also like, it would increase DPS early on, but it's still pretty much required to do waterfall quests to get 30 attack and strength. And for the people who aren't like see this from the perspective of people who aren't really knowledgeable about RuneScape, where they just log into the
Yeah, I
game for
mean
the
we
first
can
time, they know nothing,
we
and
can
then they
even
don't
imagine a
know.
free to play world as well. Like just imagine free to play. That's the easiest thing to imagine.
Yeah, that's another good example, and it would be a lot more reasonable to train your stats in free to play if you were starting to hit like at least fives with melee and range. Mage, it's very reasonable. A max hit of 8 with Fire Strike is actually really, really good. As you said, it's like crazy OP, especially when you consider that Jagex back in the day forgot to give things magic levels, so you were just always hitting your Fire
All
Strikes.
right, hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. First off, I think it should still be the same. We have to remember that when your max hit is 1, again, this is all under the assumption that they get rid of the -1 max hit. just to balance it. They simply just make it so if you pass the accuracy roll, it's a guaranteed one. You are like at the beginning, this is a literal double DPS increase, like just straight up double, because you're killing things with 0 defense in the first place. So you're just gonna be punching, you're hitting ones nonstop. Imagine they did this. Just hear me out. What if they made it so all melee, all barehanded or kicking is 3 ticks?
You really want 2-tick and 3-tick
Dude,
weapons? That's
no.
really funny.
I'm just thinking, what if, dude? What if barehanded across the board is now 3-tick?
Like, what's the difference between just equipping an event RPG, though?
I know. I mean, they could, but like, how cool? I don't know. Maybe that's. I just think that's totally fine, actually, just to be punching at 3 ticks. To be fair, those early weapons though are actually going to be just severe downgrades because as soon as
You
you
know
move
what? You know what? Forget sailing. We all
yeah,
know Sae Bae wants martial arts as the new skill,
I
where
do,
they're adding
I do.
judo and
I talked about that, dude,
BJJ.
bro.
That's what we really need.
I legitimately was talking about that. I think with King Condor, fucking like just being able to have a martial arts skill where you just go in and start ninja kicking stuff, and like he was saying that apparently there's maybe an RS3 or some other thing, like there's some version of that, or maybe it was in
Dude,
WoW or
you
something
gotta
where you're just
you
panda kicking
surely
stuff.
watched some kung fu movies recently, dude.
No,
You are really
no.
interested in this concept.
No, but think about how cool. Like imagine like a CG, like a corrupted gauntlet where it's corrupted gauntlet, but you're not advancing your weapons. It's simply a training ground where you're butt ass naked and you learn to punch better and you learn to do like these combos and shit.
You
Like
just
how
go into
cool.
Corrupted Gauntlet like
Yeah.
John
And
Wick, just doing all this choreography on monsters. You go to the Dark Beast in Corrupted Gauntlet, and you just go behind him and do a pile driver on it,
yeah. No. I
and
mean,
just one shot it with like some sick uh Randy Orton RKO from out of nowhere.
I just, I mean, completely would not fit this game at all with how the current gear and everything goes. But I just think even just minor things like just being able to punch quicker or something, and even imagine you had a special bar barehanded, like a special attack barehanded, where you can actually do a rapid succession of, dude, just do that. Actually, listen, keep everything 4-tick. We don't need to make crazy changes, but add a
Oh,
special
dude.
attack to punches and kicks. Please just do that. Like legitimately give you a 10% to just 1-tick punch. Bro. Please. Okay, maybe it would have to be
Oh man, this
25%.
is so
That'd be
fun sounding though.
dude,
Like it's
listen.
funny, but it's so fun.
No. This makes perfect sense. Please, somebody, everyone, open your mind to this possibility right now. Listen, you're punching things. Your special bar means nothing with punches, but now with 25%, you can 1-tick a punch or a kick. So you're punching cows early game, one. All of a sudden, oh, hey, I have 100% spec. Let me just fucking do a rapid succession of 4 punches in a row in 1-tick. Boom, 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 boom. It's like a fucking
Oh, dude.
Gmaul, dude. That would
Let's
be
just add
sick.
target combos to OSRS where you just like you press
Bro,
right down or you go like forward down back to do a Shoryuken, like
bro.
just like quarter circle forward Hadouken.
No, no,
Just
no,
add
no.
Street Fighter to OSRS, bro.
It doesn't even need to be crazy. It literally just needs to be 25% spec. When you're naked, you can do a 1-tick Gmaul hit, basically. That's all I'm asking. Like that would be, it's not OP in any way, and it keeps that early level training fun as fuck because you're just able to 1-tick your punches like boom, like that'd be amazing, dude.
I don't
That,
think anyone
yeah.
wielding a rune skimmy hitting ammonite crabs is gonna take off the rune skim to spec with their punches, dude. I don't think they're gonna
I don't
do
even
that.
think, but I don't that it would be so in the early game. I don't even think it would actually outclass the rune scimitar because your punches are so shitty because you don't have full Torva and everything. Like as soon as you have a bunch of gear upgrades where your strength level is so much higher, then it's going to count for something. But a rune scimitar, I feel like one rune scimitar is more than 4 punches. I could be. I might be wrong on that, but it really highly depends on your gear.
You wouldn't be like punching without specking,
I know. So you would
would
just do.
you?
No.
Would you want that?
What?
Where you just punch stuff and you don't even use weapons?
No, I mean, I'm just saying in the early game, being able to punch things and have a 25% just like rapid punch, like a 25% spec to one tick a punch in between. So it would literally act like a GML. So it's not increasing your cooldown at all. You're just getting an extra punch in if you have it.
It's so silly. It's hard for me to take it seriously. It's
It,
very
it's
funny.
it's just so cute. Like it's just such a cute like thing to be able to do. Like I don't know. I just think that's awesome. I don't know.
You know that term they used to throw around where they say it doesn't really feel old school? They used to say that all the
Yeah,
time,
I know.
and now they just stopped.
Yeah, we
But
just
I don't think specking with your fists wearing nothing feels old school to
dude,
me, dude.
it's
It's just too
badass.
lost in the
Okay, how
sauce
about
for
this?
me
How
to
about this?
take
How about this? How about
seriously.
this? How about this? How about you don't get it at the beginning, but through barbarian training,
I'm
you can.
sold. We're in.
Okay,
We're back.
barbarian training needs
I'm
that.
sold. That's it.
We
That's
need
all you
that.
need to
Yeah.
say.
Barbarian training. There we go, dude.
That's it. That's it. Just you like you go. Dude, I can't wait for them to add this, and then that combat achievement where you have to kill Vorkath with your fists, where it takes
Yes.
like 8 minutes. It's gonna take 2 minutes with your best in slot barbarian fisticuffs
Yes.
training involved.
Your
God,
fisting
imagine doing a
powers are gonna be
2 minute
so much
Vorkath
higher.
with your fisting powers. Okay, I would maybe cut that out. Cut that out of the cast. That's too lewd for the Sae Bae cast.
All right, let's continue this. All right, early game combat prayers. In other early game news, we'll be making changes to Thick Skin, Burst of Strength, Clarity of Thought, Sharp Eye, and Mystic Will. They may look like the names you came up with for the band you always wanted to start in high school, but they're actually the first tier of prayers players unlock. We'll forgive you for being unfamiliar with them because currently they're not strong enough to feel worth using. And much like your high school band, they don't stay active for very long. Here are our plans. Reduce the drain rate of Thick Skin, Burst of Strength, Clarity of Thought, Sharp Eye, and Mystic Will from 5 points per minute to 1 point per minute. Adjust Sharp Eye and Burst of Strength to boost your range and strength levels by +1 respectively if they're lower than 20. The drain rate change should be self-explanatory. At the levels players will realistically use these prayers, they don't have enough prayer points to get good use out of them, and this change will fix that. The second change ensures that these damage boosting prayers will actually boost some damage in some instances. For context, old school systems almost always round down. So for a 5% strength increase to actually work, you need a strength level of at least 20. By that point in the game, players have often gotten past the point where they turn to these basic prayers for a boost. Adding just one flat level for levels below 20 gives these prayers utility at their recommended level and serves to demonstrate how useful prayers will be later on, since it might be the difference that gives you an added max hit early on. Perfect. I think this is a great change. It's completely irrelevant to how I'll be playing, but it makes perfect sense, and it's just good quality of life. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't really get it. Like,
It's just making it so those
if
prayers actually have a you. Literally, if you're below 20, you're just not hitting anything. Like you're just it literally is doing nothing. It's actually doing nothing.
well, like if you start a new account and you get like a hookup of like 100K GP
Yeah.
from someone, you can just buy 25 D bones in the GE and a burning amulet, teleport to Wildy, go to the Chaos altar, use your bones on the altar, and you're just instantly 40 prayer.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. But
I
I'm
don't
I'm
know.
just I'm just saying I think it's cool that if you start off, um, like you start off and whatever burst of strength is, I don't even have my prayer levels. Is that like level 3 or something? Burst of strength.
Dude,
Whatever that level is.
I don't
Like
know at
the
all. But
fact that you could be running around and just get an extra max hit just by one tick flicking that without having done any prayer yet is kind of cool. Like it's just like guaranteed extra max hit just from flicking that on.
I
So
guess I guess reducing the drain rate makes sense, but it's just like why? It just does nothing to me. It
I know
doesn't
it
feel
does
like it's
nothing, but
doing
it
anything.
makes perfect sense why they would do this because it's not hurting anything. It's just allowing those.
It's not like it's a bad change.
Yeah,
It's just it's to me it's just like
yeah.
why are they even
That's why I'm
looking at
okay with
these?
it.
There's just no way they can make it like usable. They're just so garbage prayers, and you get early prayer levels so fast. Just like Fire Strike a Lava Dragon as a new Iron, bury one bone, your 10 prayer levels. It's not that extreme, but you get the point. It's just so fast
Yeah,
to
yeah,
like go past those. Um, I don't know. Maybe make the 10% prayers cheaper as well,
yeah. They should do that
so that
across the board.
you don't, so that the burst of strength doesn't suddenly like look a lot more appealing than whatever the one is above it, which
Yeah,
is like 10 times more expensive for plus 5%. It's
you're
like not
right.
even worth it.
You're right. They should
So
across.
if they're gonna do this, they should probably just do it on all the prayers that are before uh piety, basically.
Yep. I'm also one of those people. I'm not going to talk about it here. Well, I'm not going to go into detail about it, but I would really love it if they just combined all these melee prayers into one. Like the fact that there's thick skin, bursts of strength, and clarity of thought as separate fucking prayers is like the stupidest thing. It's so archaic. I know it's old school, but nobody's used them in the first place. So why not just combine them and make them all kind of like a piety thing? It's like boom, here's your bullshit melee prayer.
I would just say release content where you can unlock a new prayer book, and it doesn't even have that many new prayers in it. It all it does is it just deletes all the garbage that you never use, and then just condenses the prayer book into something a lot more usable.
We
That's what
already
I would
have that
do.
because you can already. I don't know if you knew, but you can already rearrange your prayers and hide them.
Well, that's a plugin thing. That's not in the actual game.
Is it not? I thought it was in the actual game now.
Wait, is it?
Actually, let me see.
Dude, it's so hard to tell what's RuneLight and what's not. But
Okay,
no, like
so
it would be cool to have a cool new prayer book, but not to the point that they were doing with Ruinous Powers, where it's just like, holy shit, there is so much going on.
there actually, if you right click the prayer thing, I don't know if you're logged in. Are you logged in right now?
Oh no, I'm not.
Okay. Well, there's a filter thing now if you do it. I think
Oh, is
it
that
is.
like spellbook filtering where it's really like not great?
It's not great, but I think you're right. It's like half of it's plugged into the actual game and half of it's Rune Light where you can rearrange things and hide them. I'm pretty sure. Actually, I think hiding them is part of the game now, but I think rearranging might be Rune Light. Autocast delay. We already spoke about this change when you asked us about it following the NPC. Defense changes blog so it shouldn't catch anyone off guard. Essentially, when selecting the autocast option on a staff and then clicking an NPC, there's a 1 tick delay before your first attack actually fires. This makes it feel a bit clunky and also reduces your damage in scenarios where you're reducing and restoring your magic level or switching into a magic setup. Now that we're introducing elemental weaknesses, we want spell-based magic to feel nice and smooth, so we're removing this delay. Thank God.
God bless.
That's amazing. Yeah, nothing more to say other than thank you. All right. Theater of Blood, Verzik, Phase 2. Solo Theater of Blood enjoyers have expressed frustration at the disparity between how Verzik's mechanics are handled in normal and hard mode. We're fixing that. If only one player is left alive during Verzik's second phase, only one Nilokis Matomenos, it's like Masomenos, also known as red crabs, despite clearly being ticks, will spawn. This change isn't just for solo players. Should your team meet an untimely end during phase 1, you should now be able to clutch it out. Cool. That's fine by
Doesn't
me.
this make solo top like actually doable now?
Yeah,
That seems really huge.
it's amazing. It makes it
I think
so.
Verzik's gonna heal so much though, while you're like killing the crab, and also yeah, it's like Verzik's gonna use blood spells on you and still heal a lot, so it's gonna be pretty slow getting through that last 35%, but at least it's gonna be doable without tick eating everything.
Yep. And it just gets rid of that whole like 15-minute segment of doing nothing. So,
This is extremely reasonable, and for the people who are gonna say, oh, you can solo top now, it removes the team element of top, and then I just say to you, like, all right, enjoy doing solo Nilos,
yeah,
have fun.
literally enjoy doing any part of Top. Like soloing Top is a fucking shit show. I mean, I know there's some
Oh yeah.
people that are just gamers and just want to do it all the time, but man, like I'd much rather be in a team. All right,
Soda's egg, you still have to tick it. Yeah, it's this is a great change.
it
This is a
is.
very great good change.
Okay, Tombs of a Masket. I love this. Path of Atmakin and Baba. There's no escaping the dreaded monkey room. Thankfully, your prayers to the Menifite Pantheon have been answered. Increase hit points for all style-based enemies inside the Path of Atmakin. These enemies will now always take maximum damage when attacked with the opposing combat style. Assuming you're in a solo raid, this is how the HP values and max hits will shake out. Brawler, 25 HP and 30 HP, always max hit by magic. Thrower, 30 HP and 35 HP, always max hit by melee. And Mage, 20 HP and 25 HP, always max hit by range. Note that there are stronger and weaker variants of all these NPCs indicated by the 2 HP values in the list above. And the HP totals will scale with group size and raid level. At the end of Path of Atmakin awaits Baba and her extremely potent melee attack. Since we're here, we may as well take a swing at it. Baba now only hits for 25% of damage through Protect from Melee, down from 33%. This reduces the damage by around 24%. This should prevent players losing so much DPS to Red X. Although those looking to save supplies will find it isn't removed entirely. And that's that. Okay, so just real quickly, I really hope, because I guess when I first read this, I assumed that every single monkey in the monkey room is now going to be able to get max hit. I feel like that's not actually the case, and I want that to be the case. I don't want it to just be the monkeys that have an opposing style, which I feel like are almost all of them, except I don't think shamans are on there, and I don't think the volatile.
No shamans, no volatiles.
Yeah, you want them to explode anyway.
Explode. Yeah, the thralls, but they are so weak. And then it's like, what else is there?
Everything.
There's the cursed baboon.
Yeah, that's the. Oh yeah, the one that paints or whatever.
Venom, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Every single thing. If they don't have an exact style, I think those should also just be max hit with whatever thing you're wearing. Honestly, like you should get a max hit. You should just be able to max hit them.
Maybe it makes it too easy. I don't know. I'm not a Toa guy. I just did Toa for the first time yesterday.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. It is such. It's supposed to be a fucking puzzle room. Nobody's dying there anyway. It's just a nuisance. It's just a fucking nuisance to be in there. Like you're just sitting in there, just waiting. Like, come on, like move on. Like I just want to get done with this. Just make it so everything's max hittable. Like Jesus Christ, like just everything's max hittable. The ones that don't have a specific style are just max hit with whatever you're wearing. So you're always just going to try to choose the max or whatever needs, whatever's going to give you that one shot potentially. So that's my personal take on it. If not, it's just, I don't know. I just want them to make that as most streamlined as humanly possible. But whatever.
Why is it that Nyla Room is held in such a high regard, and then the monkey room in Toa is the exact opposite? How did that happen?
Just because I think it's because Nilo's static.
Well, the spawns are static too for the monkey room.
Not where they actually spawn from though.
Oh, just interesting. Okay.
Yeah, they're not. They're always spawning different things, and I don't have like the documents and spreadsheets on all this, and they have made some changes, but I'm pretty sure even toward the end, there's like just different actual variations of what spawns. Like sometimes you get like 4 volatiles, and sometimes you get like a multiple shamans instead of volatiles, and it's just kind of like,
oh, interesting.
Yeah, I don't really understand it, but it's just, and you got this fucking statue in the middle, and you gotta avoid the paint, and it's just, I don't know, there's a bunch of, and the click boxes on all these things are fucking microscopic, so you're misclicking all the time, having to fix these stupid pillars and vents. I don't know, it's just dumb, and the whole time you just want to get to Baba. It's just like, come on. Anyway, so then they say, and that's it. As always, we're excited to hear your thoughts and feedback regarding everything we've discussed today. We're making these changes to relieve the most common frustrations you've told us about, and we believe they'll massively improve progression and safeguard Old School's future. A huge thank you again to everyone who's provided feedback so far. No doubt we'll get back, or we'll be back to discuss it further. See you soon. Any final thoughts on this whole thing?
Yeah, they're doing great. I trust Jagex very much more so than I used to make good changes. I think they're being a bit too conservative though. They could maybe make some bigger changes rather than all these like 1%, 2%. I think they could maybe muster up a bit more courage to shake up the game more rather than all these these effectively feel like bug fixes to me. Like a lot of these nightmare drop rates being changed, like that needed to be fixed ages ago. Drop rate for Dragon Hammer needed to be changed ages ago. Like these mostly feel like bug fixes to me rather than rebalancing. Rebalancing to me, it's like where different weapons are doing completely different things because of buffs and nerfs and all that. And these are pretty mid,
Yeah.
all things considered. They're good changes, mind you. Like they're going in the right direction, but they're not really being very polarizing here. They're just making all these little tiny changes here and there that are very hard to notice or to look forward to. Other than like, I'm really looking forward to the Elder Maul change. That one's the big one.
My biggest piece. There's three things that really stuck out to me, and I'll just review those. TLDR is Inquisitor's armor needs to just be 7.5% across the board, I think.
Agreed.
Make it so the scythe doesn't get affected by that somehow. That makes sense. That's my personal take. If it does affect the scythe, it's just, I mean, I actually still think it would be a positive change just because Inquisitors need a
Just
buff.
delete the crush style on the site,
Yeah.
I guess,
Um,
is better.
and then, yeah, no, seriously. Because then it brings so many weapons more in line. Like, just ups a lot of those crush weapons to a good, stable point. Um, And then my other problem was the nightmare drop rates. Those need to be way more improved, way more improved. And then the last thing was the minimum hit adjustments. Get rid of the fucking -1 max hit and add one to the bottom. Just
Yeah,
stop that.
yeah,
Do not do
yeah,
that. That's
100%.
those are my main gripes. But yeah, other than that, great.
I'm really appreciative for the community that we have. And it's kind of jarring because if I look at other video game communities, it's a much different story. Like I look at stuff like how sweaty RTS players are or shooters are. Like there's a lot of cheating going on in high level FPS. Uh, Fighting games seem pretty good other than Smash Bros. I see Smash Bros. Tournaments get canceled because of how smelly they are. uh, and then like the speedrunning community has all these problems. And then I just look at all of that in comparison to the community we have here for this point and click adventure game from 20 years ago. And I don't know how we got to this point where we have a very good community on our hands compared to all these other places where there's all kinds of bad stuff lingering.
That's
I
always
think
That's always nice hearing, mainly because I really am just very much centered in old school's community. And so I don't even have that much of a contrast with other things. So that's always
maybe
nice
maybe
hearing.
maybe looking at the Sae Bae cast is a little unfair because you do pick guests based on their merit. But I'm listening to all these different guests that you've had on your podcast in the past, and I just hear all these interesting stories about the way people are progressing as people or as gamers, and we all kind of share the same passion for the game, and it really shows and comes out on these podcasts. So seeing all these different people all having these positive experiences, interesting experiences, at the end of the day, we've all grown up with this game, and I think that makes our community very special.
I agree. Yeah, no, it's actually it's such a great position. Like I'm so grateful to be in the position I am as well, to be able to like interview the people, because one, like, this is not something I ever thought I would be able to do like comfortably, is like just talk to a stranger over voice for multiple hours and just talk about other things rather than RuneScape. Some podcasts are definitely just centered on RuneScape, but a lot of the time we get more into IRL. And yeah, you're right. Like I almost every single person I've talked to on the cast has been just a wonderful person, just outside of the game as well. And yeah, I think we do have like a really blessed community. And I think it's also partly because we're all like, it's like one generation like we're not seeing many young, super young players playing old school either. So it's like we're all progressing at like a linear rate, like
It's
into
really nice.
adulthood and
Yeah,
everything.
everyone kind of has the same things that connect them together because we're a similar age group. We grew up with the same things, the same video
We're
games,
all like
the same
millennials.
pop culture, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we have nothing to do with the broccoli-haired Zoomers of the new generation. I'm just gonna take a moment and vent a little bit
Go for it.
because while I was on my 2 year break from OSRS, I got into Majora's Mask Randomizer.
Hmm.
And that was really fun because I liked that game growing up. So I'm like, okay, let me try the randomizer for it. And then I realized, like, oh, wow, there's a lot of depth to this game that I've never seen before. And I thought randomizer would be a really cool way to replay a game that I liked in the past as a kid, right? So I started like doing races for this, like Majora's Mask randomizer races. And I was getting really involved just based on my skill set that I've gained from OSRS of like learning new methods and learning like, okay, this is better to do here than this, and all these little time saves. So I got really good, and at one point I became the best player. But
Holy.
yeah, yeah, if you go on the like the race time, maybe they deleted it because I quit. But if you go on the race time
Delete it if you
leaderboard,
quit.
no, it's they do it, dude. I haven't even got to the bad part yet of how this
Oh
community is.
no.
It's just horrendous. So yeah, I became the best player, and everyone agreed I was the best. I was the smartest. I had the best execution. I was the most consistent. I was winning races. I knew the most out of anyone. In fact, I also had a very large part to do with the development of the randomizer program. I was in deep, dude. Like I was having a great time, but the problem was that there was no camaraderie in the community. Like no one was getting together like they do for this game, where they're trying to get better or they're like trying to learn different strats. Everyone was just doing their own thing completely. Like there was very little discussion. The all the mods on the Discord for the randomizer, they like all the admins, they didn't even play the game. Like they're just people from the Zelda speedruns Discord that kind of run the tournaments, right? Like all the admins, they don't even play the game. Like that maybe they play the
Weird.
Ocarina of Time randomizer, but none of them played the game. You got into this point where uh the developer was just completely off the rocker. Like the main developer for the Majora's Mask randomizer was adding all this weird stuff that just trying to randomize every single thing where like you break a pot that is supposed to give you like a magic refill, right? Like adding the ability to randomize that, and then just the focus was completely lost on how to play this game in a fun and like reasonable way. And there's no consensus on how to play it. So you have these people that will boot up the randomizer for the first time and they're like, oh, I'm just going to randomize everything. And then it ends up being like, oh, you randomize 2,000 things because every single like minute detail of the game is randomized. So you have cases where people that, they're just coming back to this Zelda game from 20 years ago to like replay it, and then they want to try randomizer, and then they end up randomizing everything, and then they're wondering, oh, I don't know where my fire arrows are. They're apparently in Termina Field rock number 25, and they just don't know that every single rock and jar is randomized. It was really really bad. It I thought that I could try to be influential, being the best player, but it ended up not happening. No one cared for what I had to say at all. I had no
Damn.
platform to share my thoughts on anything because I wasn't a mod. I wasn't an admin for this Discord. I wasn't a developer. I didn't know how to code. And it got to the point where I asked for some recognition for the changes that I did to the randomizer program, and I just got ghosted. Like they just didn't even tell me like, "Oh, we're not gonna put your name in the credits." They just ignored me. Like
The
I wanted to
hell?
be in the credits for the program because I completely designed from the ground up the way that items would be randomized in the program to be more diverse because previously it was really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they just never did. They didn't care. And I don't know if it's because They didn't want to feed into my like ego because I was the best player at the time. But yeah, it was so frustrating being the best in the community and yet feeling so empty because it's a niche community. There's like barely any new players, and all the people that currently play, they just do their own thing. They don't really care about what they're doing or the game that they're playing, and the enthusiasm they have for playing the game is just absent. It's completely unlike OSRS, where I feel like people listen to what I have to say. They're interested in like the ideas that I have for the game. And me being on the Sae Bae cast, I actually feel like even though I'm not a content creator, I have a platform to speak about my opinion on like the game that I'm playing, and I'm very happy to tell people that I really like this game. And at the end of the day, I really liked playing Majora's Mask Randomizer, but the community there just completely let me down. Lots of
God.
social rejects because they're playing a niche game that's completely in the shadow of Ocarina of Time. By comparison, that game is way bigger because it's not the weird like middle brother.
Yeah.
Majora's Mask is like kind of like a really weird game in a sense that it's basically a ROM hack of Ocarina of Time. Yeah, it was utterly frustrating. So frustrating.
That sounds,
I did.
yeah, and especially with the stark contrast of what you already experienced with old school. And yeah, I mean the community here is so passionate. Like it's like
Yeah,
the biggest
absolutely.
cult following ever, and we're all obsessed with it. And so what happened? Did you just like quit, and then they just were like, "All right, fuck you," kind of like just
So what I promised was because okay, you know what? Looking back on it, I'm like remembering all the hundreds of hours that I put into that. I wrote all of the logic for the way that the game places items. So it's like it's trying to figure out like, okay, I can place an item here and it's gettable with X and Y items in this really obscure way, right? Like I did that across the whole game, including all the rocks and jars and bullshit that you can randomize that I didn't agree with. I wrote the logic for all kinds of stuff like that because it interested me a lot. Like I thought like, oh no way, it'd be so cool if there was this really obscure trick that you could do to get this item and it would be in logic. Like the randomizer would consider that obscure trick. So my I did promise that I would write a whole bunch of tricks into the randomizer to be toggleable, and then I would make a YouTube video for every single trick to educate people on all the tricks that you can do so that there's no confusion on like, oh, how is this in logic? Like, how is this trick like how can you do this trick to get this item? And yeah, I just got so fed up that I said to them, like, hey, you know what? I'm done. I'm not going to do these videos. It'd be so much work, and I get no appreciation for any of the things that I do as it is. So I'm just out. Goodbye.
damn. And now they just don't even like acknowledge that you were the best.
I never, well, okay, the actually good people that played, they all acknowledged me as the best, but they didn't really go much further than that. And I'm trying to think here. So yeah, I got no recognition, and when I said I was gonna leave, like I got one DM when I left. I got one DM from this community being like, "Hey, is everything okay?" And this guy's a homie. Like the guy that messaged me is a homie. And then other than that, like I do have friends from there. I have my a crazy Brazilian friend. His name's Spec3X. He's a legend, as well as Lolo. He's another guy that I met from this community, and those are good people. But yeah, other than that, like no one cared when I left. No one gave me any recognition for any of the stuff that I did. Nothing. Like no one asked like, hey, we'll do this for you so that you can come back and we can make it better. Like no, there's just none of that. Like, and a lot of it is just to do with the fact that most of the people playing an obscure randomizer from super long ago, they're not really very mentally well to be able to speak reasonably like that. In the OSRS community, it's different because people do talk about stuff like mental health and they do have there are things going for them other than RuneScape. Like I think for the most part, the people that play this game do a pretty good job of balancing their life out. But yeah, it was not the case for the Majora's Mask randomizer community by any means, and
That
I'm very
is
disappointed in it.
so rough. Oh man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very, very sad.
We
But you
we
know what? It was a fun game. It is a very fun game, but yeah, it's just not handled in the way it could have been. If it was up to me and I had like less going on with my life right now, if it was up to me, I would just like completely rewrite the randomizer and then just start my own community and just kind of put it in a better direction than the current one is and just make my own randomizer. But I'm not that vindictive, I guess is the
yeah.
word, to want to do that.
And just the
I'm
time
just gonna
to
put it behind me completely.
yeah.
I'm just gonna focus on my life and my IRL and move on. And yeah, this is why I have a profound appreciation for this game and the community, and it is unlike anything else.
Yeah, that's rough to hear, but you're totally right. Old school, we got it good here. And the team cares so much about the game. That's the other
Yeah.
thing. Like not only the community, but the team working on the game. We're not they care so much about what we think about the game and they want it to be player ran basically, which is just amazing. So, yeah, we got it fucking good. Well, Guppy, I guess we'll just kind of like wrap things up then. And
Yeah, I said everything I wanted to say,
yeah.
mentioned the game, IRL, and then I got this rant off my chest that I needed to big time. Dude, it feels so good just talking about it when I knew that I had absolutely no one that could even be remotely relatable to the position that I was in. It felt great, and I have a platform to vent my frustration. Basically, just don't play old Nintendo games. It's a mistake. Don't do it.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, I'm glad I'm glad I could get you on again. Like seriously, anytime.
Therapy.
Literally
It's
anytime you want to
therapy.
come on, like, you're welcome. So,
Thank you very much, Sater. I appreciate it. Yeah, I feel like I've been on the cast more than anyone at this point, and I
yeah.
don't know how that happened, but I have lots to say.
I think
It's been fun.
I think you and AddyCon, so you and AddyCon have both been on 4 separate times, and I think you might barely beat him in hours. I mean, you clearly beat him in hours because you've only had solo appearances. So voice time for sure, you're the top guest. But AddyCon
Hell
and you
yeah!
both have 4 episodes. So
I want to
yeah,
shout out Adicon, by the way. I think he's a good guy.
he
And
is.
every time I see Adicon, I'm like a little bit confused that maybe I'm looking at Mogo Kirby because they're like the same person in my eyes. It's hard for me to differentiate them, but I like them both. They're
Yeah,
cool guys.
dude,
Shout out to them.
both of them are legends. Mulgoat, by the way, he is the funniest motherfucker too. Like he is so
Yeah,
funny, and he has the funniest reactions to things ever. And just any of his reactions are just gold. Like every single one, like they're just amazing. So yeah,
I really enjoyed listening to the Adicon and Mogo Kirby cast for
yeah,
sure. They're
they're
they're good people to listen to.
they're fun and interesting, and they're just super passionate about old school. Super
Oh yeah,
passionate. It just
that's the most
radiates from
important thing
them.
right there.
Yeah. It's cool, and they've been around for a while. Adicon especially has been around for years. Like he's been around. I'm pretty sure me and him both started around the same time. So in the content creation sphere. Well, Guppy, I won't keep you any longer. But down in the description, everybody. Oh yeah, what do you have? So I'll have your Twitter there, or no, your Twitch. I mean, do you?
I have a Twitter, but I'm pretty sure that I'm only going to use it to follow artists that draw anime girls. So don't worry about following me there. I'm not going to post.
Okay. So you got Twitch. I'll have your YouTube. Is there anything else you want linked?
Oh, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Like, I have a YouTube and I have some videos that popped off there, which is
Hmm.
interesting. But yeah, those are outdated big time. I have no plans to release any videos anytime soon.
Well,
Like, I don't know if I'm going to stream on Twitch at all. Like I'm gonna be more IRL focused going forward. OSRS is just a hobby for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I don't really need anything linked, I guess. The most important thing you could link is just the old cast that I had on with you. If people like
They will
listening to
all
me,
be
then
linked down there. I do that with
or
every episode that
yeah,
people have duplicate episodes of. So yeah, all
yeah.
those will be
I'm
down
not
there.
looking for any. I'm not looking for any like recognition or anything like that. I'm not trying to make money off of what I'm saying. I'm just here to talk about RuneScape with my good friend Sae Bae.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's
and
always.
yeah, that's about it. At most, like if anyone wants to do combat achievements with me, I'm doing those right now. So you can message me
Should I have your
on
Discord
Discord.
link down there
Just
then?
Bcguppy. You can just message me asking to do CAs, and I would much rather do CAs with someone who listened to me for multiple hours than to just find a team on the CA Discord. So yeah, it'd be a lot more enjoyable for me to just chat with people who like listening to me. So message me on Discord if you're interested in doing that. I may be doing a lot of CAs in the future. We'll see. I'm trying to get that Zuckham. I never got it, so I
Yeah,
gotta work on that.
it's time. Okay, I was just looking at this the casts you've had previous plus the ramble plus this cast. I'm pretty sure you are pressing 15 hours of audio from me on my channel.
Hell
So
yeah.
if anybody ever has 15 hours to spend on some grind, there you go. You have 15 hours of VC
I
Guppy
earned
talking.
that
Yeah,
steak dinner in Oregon big time.
you did 15 hours. Uh, thank you, Guppy, for coming on. Okay, so guys, if you want to listen to more BC Guppy, clearly we have an additional like 11 and a half hours. So just down in the description, go click on any of his other previous ones, especially the first two. Those are, I mean, you will hear some absolute gems of conversations where we're talking about like so many things. I mean, we're still pre-sailing, but this is like before sailing was even a possibility in the game. We talked so much about that and other things. So it would definitely be a nostalgia hit to a lot of people. Also, if you want to support the cast, down in the description, there's a Patreon link and a YouTube membership link. Support the cast directly there. And yeah, that's it for me. Guppy, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me once again, you fellas. Everyone listening in, have yourselves a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.
Peace.